journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path, one that we must take. The gray rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it.
What? Gandalf, see what?
White shores and beyond, a far green country under a swift sunrise.
Well, that isn't so bad.
No. No, it isn't. Good evening and welcome to ELOsoFumarTakes. This is our 275th take live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star studio of Azle, Texas. I'm your host, Barry Duplessis, as always, and I'm so proud, so pleased, and so privileged to be with you all tonight. This is going to be a fantastic show, an epic showdown, the end of a trilogy, the end of an era, but it's all done in amazing fashion with some amazing nerds in the house. Yes, we are bringing it to you live tonight with some amazing cigars, good cocktails, good spirits, both in liquid form and in spiritual form. Yes, good spirits. Yes, we are doing it. I'm so proud, so pleased, and so excited to be with you guys tonight. It's going to be fantastic. Yes, we are celebrating. Tonight's the night. We're going to talk about why December 17th, 2023 is significant for what we are celebrating tonight, but we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And it's my pleasure to introduce tonight's guest. But before we get to amazing introductions of our guests of honor, we do have to thank the people that make this show possible. And that, of course, is our sponsors. Tonight's show is sponsored by Drew Estate. Drew Estate has announced it today that the 2023 release of the limited edition Liga Privada Unico Series Pancetta is a cigar exclusively to the two Liga Privada lounges, the Wooden Indian Tobacco Shop of Havertown, Pennsylvania, and Barrister Cigars of Union, New Jersey. The Pancetta will be available beginning just this past week on December 13th. Liga Privada Unico Series Pancetta is a union of two renowned Liga Privada blends, Liga Privada T52 and the Liga Privada Unico Feral Flying Pig, featuring a Connecticut stock cut wrapper cured Habano Kappa. The cigar starts with a spicy blast and a hearty aroma, leading to the enthusiasts on the complex journey through Liga Landia. That's a Drew Estate word. A bold Brazilian Modafina binder, powerful filler leaves from Nicaragua and Honduras were selected to add raw but might to this powerful blend. The binder and filler leaves are the very same that go into the Liga Privada Unico Feral Flying Pig. These majestic tobaccos are skillfully rolled into a 4 3/4 by 52 Bellicoso, identified by a 2023 release footband to make it an unforgettable smoking experience. So check out those two True Diplomat retailers in Havertown, Pennsylvania and Union, New Jersey, if you want to snag one of the Liga Privada Unica Pancettas. I know it is a tasty, fantastic blend, some exciting tobaccos that went into it, and so you definitely should scope those guys out if you're wanting to get them, but act fast because I have a feeling they won't last long. And welcome, everybody. This is our 275th take. And I'm so proud and pleased to introduce these fine gentlemen, returning once again to talk about one of the best films of the 21st century. I think that's a fair assessment here. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Sam Spencer, Matt Ty, and Tripp Waldrop. Gentlemen, how are we doing tonight?
Happy to be back, Bear. It's always a pleasure to nerd out and talk movies.
Indeed, man.
Yeah, I've been looking forward to this for a couple months. I'm excited.
Yes. Let's get the ring back in its proper place, and by the time we're done, the ending of the movie from the original screening 20 years ago may finally be finished.
That's true. Yeah. Well, what's really exciting about this too, is Tripp identified something that's actually related. He's like, I've been looking forward to this to a couple of months. We had to wait an entire year for this shit to come out. When, after Two Towers dropped, we had to wait for an entire year to come out, man. Man, talk about the patience that we had 20 years ago that we just don't have today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, by far. We didn't have social media to distract us and all that nonsense.
Well, we had to wait, this book came out in the 50s?
Yeah.
We had to wait 50 years for them to put
for a decent version of it.
Decent version.
Right. Yeah, the cartoon, was the cartoons made in the 80s? We've talked about this before. It was pretty early.
It was early 80s, I believe, like 80, 81.
Yeah, it was like really raw animation and stuff. Yeah, like really fantastic quality stuff. Sam wasn't even a twinkle in anyone's eye. I was
even
born in
close.
81, actually, so that tells you something because I'm fucking old. So how about that? Matt was lying
I was
about his
gonna make an old
Matt,
dig at Matt, but
Matt Ty was lying about his age as always, so it's all was right with the world.
I was very much alive when those cartoons came out. And I do remember seeing them along with also seeing like if anybody's ever seen those awesome old cartoon versions of like Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
those cartoons were the shit back in the day. I loved
Oh,
those cartoons.
fuck yeah, they were great, man. They were absolutely great. I loved it. I dig this stuff, man. I I really I think between the two, I was growing up. I read. I've said this before on previous pods, but like I was more the C.S. Lewis guy rather than Tolkien guy. My sister read every fucking book in the world, but she was the best. She read both, but she was more the Tolkien fan into us. But she got me into this, and that's as I mentioned on previous pods too. This show is actually dedicated in her honor because without her, I never would have done this podcast. Never would have seen the movies because we made it an annual tradition. She took me to Lord of the Rings the first year, and then again, like we have to wait a year till we find out what happens next. And the next Christmas, we went to the Two
I mean, or you could
Towers.
read the book from 50 years ago. But
No, well,
Yeah.
because that would have been too easy. Trip. Why would I do that? Why would
I do agree. I didn't do it.
Yeah, I didn't do it.
I was just a vagabond in high school. I didn't read. Come on. She
Yeah,
got me into
exactly.
reading too. She actually got me into reading too, which is actually why I read today for enjoyment, is because of her. So that's why the show's dedicated to Reagan. Reagan Duplessis. She's a fantastic sister, and I wouldn't be here without her in a lot of ways. So thanks to her and everything. So we were talking about this though, not to just skip ahead. Sorry, didn't mean to skip off you, Reagan. Apologize. But we were talking to Tripp. You and I talked about this before in the green room before the show started. Everything I've said, I've had this show on basically, or this movie on loop for like the whole week. That's kind of how I've always prepped for these things. And you were talking about like how nobody does that anymore.
Yeah, it's really just not a thing anymore. Like I watch a movie and then I'm done watching, and I might watch it again months, years later, but I don't like. I miss the feeling of having a movie that's just on, and like you turn on the TV and you're in the middle of Lord of the Rings, and you're just like, I'll watch this for 20 minutes before I have to go do something.
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
oh
Like
shit.
these days, even watching a movie at home is a commitment.
Well, yeah. Well, it's like
So
yeah.
I
When this,
applaud you for doing that,
oh
bringing
yeah,
back the
dude.
90s.
No kidding, dude. Well, like if I mean, like when you turn on TNT or anything like that, and you were just like rolling by the kitchen or something like that, you see that it's on, and you're like, oh shit, the Oliphant's about to come out. Yeah, I'm gonna stick around and watch this. This is gonna be cool. Legolas is about to take down an Oliphant. It's gonna be great.
Or the other feeling that I just thought of that doesn't exist anymore is doing that and spending 45 minutes having no idea what movie you're watching.
That's true too.
Like
Yeah,
there's a movie on. I mean, unless you have the TV guide out, you're not going to figure out what it was in
yeah.
the 90s, 80s
So,
back then.
so Sam, a TV guide was actually not always on your television. You actually they actually came in the newspaper, or you actually bought them at the supermarket. Matt, you know what the feeling. So, were you a newspaper TV guide household? Because I was, because our family was fucking broke. Or did you actually buy the TV guide magazine at the grocery store?
We had both. But it was later, like when we didn't have enough money for the actual TV guide until I was maybe 10 or 11. But my grandparents, my mom's parents had the TV guides, and my grandmother, for whatever reason, saved all of them. I wish I would have kept those, because she had in this little side cabinet in the hallway of their apartment, it was literally stacked 3 feet tall, like 7 or 8 stacks 3 feet tall of TV guides going back to the 1970s.
Wow.
Oh wow.
And I mean, I would honestly, sometimes as a kid, I would just go in there and read through some of those just to see like old shows that weren't on anymore and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to love reading the TV guide.
You're like,
Okay,
Sushi
so
Bunker sounds like a
I do
really
wanna
cool
know.
cat. Yeah, Sam.
I do
Please
want to
tell
know.
us.
I did use the TV guide in the newspapers. I'm not that young. I
Okay.
used to catch movies on all the time.
Okay.
For the longest time, I didn't know what the beginning of Ocean's 11 was. Because
Yeah,
I would just
that's what I mean. Like, there's a movie that you've seen 30 times and you've never seen the first 10 minutes.
Yeah.
absolutely. I had no
Or-
idea. I missed the whole beginning of Ocean's 11. I was
Or
very
like-
confused when I actually watched
Or like the
movie
fact
for
that the
time.
first few times I ever saw Die Hard was on television, so I never knew how much he actually like swears in the whole thing because they just
Me too.
everything is dubbed out, you know. So that's always
Oh,
entertaining.
I saw that in the theater.
You ever find a stranger in the Alps? That's my favorite one out of all of the like ridiculous dubs.
Well,
Sorry.
before we keep going down this TV guide memory lane here, I do need to smoke a cigar tonight, and I actually have some beverages tonight as well. So, anyway, tonight is a celebratory moment. December 3rd, December 17th, 2023 is exactly to the day, guys. 20 years, 20 years celebrating 20 years of Return of the King. It was December 17th, 2003. When Return of the King came out, guys. So it's 20 years ago. We can all feel old now. Even Sam was alive.
Wow,
I mean,
that's
shit.
wild.
I mean, damn. Matt's gonna tell you that his firstborn was graduating from high school or something, some shit like that's just not true. In 2003. But yeah, man. I mean, we started this series 3 years ago. Obviously, we wanted to celebrate the 20th anniversary of these movies, just because it's an interesting observation about how well they hold up, and how like great they still are. Because a lot of movies haven't. We were Tripp was ragging on my beloved favorite Christmas movie, Polar Express. Don't start, Matt. I don't want to hear it. And how the
I like that
animation
movie.
has. I know. I just don't want you to talk about another Christmas movie. But how
I
the
have no
animation
idea what
has
you're
aged well.
talking about.
Thank you, sir. You're a good man. All right, so let's go ahead and get pouring and get smoking. While I'm pulling up some bottles, Matt, why don't you tell us what you're drinking? Because I know you've got always some great choice cocktails and drinks, and what you're smoking tonight.
Oh yeah. So some Christmas ale from Breckenridge Brewery
Nice.
and some Weller Special Reserve.
Nice.
And my first cigar is the Charter Oak Habano in the Toro size. And if it's necessary for a second cigar, oh, that's funny if it's necessary. It's definitely going to be necessary for a second cigar. So on deck, I have, if needed, a Papasaka
I almost grabbed one of those.
and LFD Oro Maduro
Ah,
Tubo.
love the Aura, man. So underrated. So good. One ring to rule them all, man. Okay. Well, Matt, I've got a choice of. I'm drinking coffee, but I'm gonna pour something here too. So I've got a Russell's Reserve, rye 6 year. I've got a Luna Azul tequila anejo.
That's a very
And-
good tequila.
It is.
And what my brother got me for my birthday, was a bottle of Talisker single malt 10 year, aged by the sea, man. So
Nice.
what, Matt, what am I drinking tonight? What would you like me to pour first?
That's what you have. That tequila you have there is one of my favorites to drink neat. So I vote for the añejo.
Sounds good.
I think that'll also set up your palate really well for the other one.
Yeah.
Good call.
Nice. Let's do it. So pour some tequila. Tripp, what are you smoking? And what are you drinking tonight?
Right now, I kind of did the Bantuck here, Davidoff Nicaragua Robusto.
Nice.
Love the cigar. I have a pile of cigars on deck, including the one Matt smoked last year that I still haven't smoked.
Oh,
I have
the
4 of
A.
these in my humidor.
Yeah.
I wanted a cigar that was as long as the final act of this movie.
We're gonna
Just
get
in
into that.
case we go pretty long.
Do you have a Woody cigar
No,
on
I
hand?
don't. If I
You would
did, that would have
probably
been the
need
one.
one.
And then I'm drinking. I made a cocktail. I found I can't remember what website it was. I think it was Eater that did a Lord of the Rings cocktail for their viewing of the TV show that came out last year, that started last year. It's called Miravor. It's named after the I don't know what to call it, the beverage that the elves drank in Rivendell, and in the first movie, they Gandalf gives little tiny sips of it to each of the Fellowship to strengthen them. So it's a honey, elderflower, gin, lemon cocktail with tonic, which is right up my alley. That's what I'm starting with, and then I have something fun for later too.
Sounds good. I mean, who doesn't spell fun without some elderflower honey? I mean,
Exactly.
I'm with you, man. Sounds good. All right, Sam. What do you besides cold? What are you smoking on? What are you drinking?
You know, I feel like we've done shows where it's been colder out here. Really, it's not that bad. But I'm smoking in Plasencia Alma Fuerte 6 toe first.
Mm-hmm.
Getting the day started a little strong. And then I've got some cigars on deck. I've got a Cohiba Series M that I believe you gave me, Bear.
I did.
Like a year.
That's a great cigar.
I've never had it. I feel like I don't have the time to smoke Churchills and Gordos very often. So we're talking about a 4.5 hour movie here.
Did I give you the Plasencia too? Because that's like one of my favorites. Or no?
I believe so.
I don't want to take up too much.
I believe
credit
so.
here. Just say. Nice.
And I'm feeling a little rye tonight. I saw you had a rye out, but a little Angels Envy rye.
Nice. When you guys come out to
keep me
Texas,
warm.
Sam's got an epic bourbon collection going on, man. Unless you put a serious dent in it. So
I have not. I said I was going to stop buying whiskey.
Don't.
And I've
okay.
continued to buy whiskey.
That never happened.
Yeah, please do that. So, all right.
I've said lots of things. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Matt said he was going to start smoke. He was going to stop smoking in the 1970s. So it's fine. It's fine. So Sam, would you like to pick my cigar for me? I've got a Dunbar Tobacco and Trust Sin Compromiso, a blackened M81 from Drew Estate. I've got the Espinosa Habano number 4, my first original number 1 cigar of the year back in 2017. Postania War Bear, sign me up. And then I also have a Cro-Magnon Aquitaine Sabertooth from Romcraft Tobacco.
Oh, I almost grabbed one of those for this show. So I'm gonna go with the Sabertooth.
Sabertooth.
I looked at it in my humidor. I don't know. I wanted to go with the Plasencia since he gave it to me to smoke it on.
Good stuff, man.
I love this movie. So
yeah. So let's get right into that. Let's start with tonight's major point, which is always brought to you by the people. Yes, cigar people who know everything about a lifetime of service. Protocol Cigars is more than just pool parties and good times. Well, maybe it is. But behind the fun is a motivation for service, a motivation for giving back from the original Protocol Blue to the latest release of the Lawman Series Phoebe Cousins. Protocol has always been about honor, passion, and yes, the people. It is what their life's work has been and always will be about. Power of the P, Protocol Cigars. So, Sam, I wanted to give you some time here, man. This is we started this journey 3 years ago. You and I and Tripp and Matt have I think Tripp's been on for all 3 of them. I think Matt had to miss one, unfortunately. I think Matt missed the fellowship, unfortunately. But this has been a 3-year journey, man. But we've been waiting for a long time because this, my good friend, is your movie. So I'm gonna let you take the floor here.
I mean, I don't know if it's my movie. This is the movie made for the world, really. But I mean, this is my favorite of the 3 films. Spoilers, even with the 4 endings, 5 endings, 12 endings, however many it is. I absolutely love this movie. The epic conclusion to the story, just tying up all the loose ends. the like full arc of all the members of the Fellowship. I mean, I love this movie, and like epic battle scenes. I don't know if Pelennor Fields has ever been replaced in my memory of like the most epic of battle scenes. So I just love this movie. We're going to be on here for hours, so I'm sure we're going to get into all the different parts that I love. But yeah, this is in the top 5 of my favorite movies. So
I've said this before on the previous editions of the show, but like I'm so much a Two Towers guy, and I was really nervous about the show,
Me
guys. I gotta
too.
be honest. Like this is the one, and look, they're all great. They're all great films, but this is the one that I'm like the weakest on. Like someone, I was talking to a couple folks today, and they're like, "Oh, you can probably quote all of them back to front." I'm like, um, The Fellowship and Two Towers, yeah. This one's the one that I am the kind of weakest on and stuff. But so Tripp, you and I are Two Towers guys. Like what? But what's your
Yeah,
impression of Return of the
I
King?
was gonna make a little confession here.
There we go.
So when Return of the King came out, this was the first Lord of the Rings movie that came out while I was out of high school and had a job. I only saw it in theaters one time. I bought the extended edition on DVD the day it came out, and yesterday was the first time I've ever watched the extended edition.
Oh shit, man. That's a that's a confession. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was a lot better than I remembered it being. I think it was like because I was like what? I was like 19 or so when this came out. So I was like, I don't know. I think I probably felt too cool for Lord of the Rings. And uh I don't remember liking it as much as I liked it this time. I don't remember it being as good as it was. So I like, it kind of like pushed it off to the back of my mind. I still like Two Towers more, but
yeah.
I
Well,
will say Two Towers is a faster film. It goes
yeah.
at a faster pace than this.
yes.
Well, like you basically have 3 Helm's Deeps in Return of the King. Like and that's not a knock on it. I think Helm's Deep is, and I know Sam, you're gonna disagree with me on this. I think Helm's Deep is one of the greatest battle scenes, if not the best battle scene ever filmed. And we talked about this last time, just the aesthetic of it, when it was shot, how it was shot, like the compartmentalization of the stories that were happening within the battle, the way it was paced, like it was just incredibly shot. But that's not to take away from all the fucking epic shit that happens in this movie too. So, but um,
I think this movie has for me a little bit of like giant battle fatigue. Where like by the third one, you're kind of like, all right, we've seen a lot of this in this movie.
yeah,
And it I don't know. It's not that it like is irritating or anything, but it feels less exciting seeing 3 within a span of I don't know 2 hours or whatever.
so I have a question about like where when we get to the ending thing, like I have a really hot take question on this, but just based on like what kind of we've already talked about, like the amount of things that happened in this film. But Matt, what was your experience with Return of the King?
Well, I mean, seeing it in the theater when it first released was just it was very gratifying as a fan of the series, as a nerd in general. It was very gratifying to finally see it come to a conclusion. In my opinion, out of all of the 3 films, the theatrical release versus the extended edition / director's cut, I think the theatrical edit was really the best one of all the, because they had to pare it down to make it a short enough film for a theatrical release. And I thought what they chose to leave in the theatrical release, I thought was very smart. I thought it was very well decided on what they included in the theatrical release. But I still absolutely love the extended cut. And in preparation for this, I watched it again a week ago or 10 days ago. And it just does not disappoint. And the funny thing is that I love about this series is they had to pick and choose so carefully for all three of these films, because if these would have been true to the literature, each one of these films would have been 9 hours long.
Yeah.
Right.
And they made good choices throughout. And this Return of the King edit was extremely well done. And
3 hours and 21 minutes.
I like the way they closed it out. Yeah.
That was theatrical. 3 hours and 21 minutes. Extended cut is a fucking full hour ahead. 4 hours and 14 minutes.
Yeah.
It feels like the theatrical is 4 hours, and it feels like the extended is 5.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. But I mean, I love this.
And
Go ahead.
I love the extended version. I sat down, I watched it today because I procrastinated, didn't have time to watch it until today. So I missed Cowboys getting destroyed, which was okay. But watched it today, and I realized, man, this extended is a lot to sit down and watch in one sitting.
But at the same time, like, there's not a ton of craft in the movie. Like, it's not one of those, like, a lot of times extended versions of movies where they had like 15 minutes. It's like scenes that didn't matter and stuff that is really boring or doesn't have anything to do with what's happening in the movie. And in this, the extended edition is like, seriously, everything makes sense to be there.
Right.
Especially at the beginning of the movie.
Yes.
Yes.
Scene with Saruman and Theoden going back and forth. Like that just it fixes Theoden's character arc. It fills in the holes.
Yes.
I think that if I were to put any part of the extended in the theatrical version, it would be that scene at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Here's my take on, like, we're going to talk about themes here in a little bit as far as this is concerned, but like for a big chunk of this movie, because like if you guys remember last year when we were talking about Two Towers, Theoden's my favorite character in Two Towers. I love his story, his arc, and the character, his lines are fucking epic. And then like this movie turns on and then he becomes a fucking dick. It's like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah.
What happened? And it's like, God bless, man. And then, but again, obviously the ending kind of, there's some redemption there, which we'll get into redemption here in a little bit. But, but it's interesting because he goes from my favorite character to my least favorite in like the scope of like 20 movie minutes from the end of one film into the middle of the next.
Yeah.
But no, I think, I mean, I've become more fond of this one. For me, it's always been Two Towers, Fellowship, and Return of the King in that order. But I've become more fond of it over the years. We're going to get into why this film is so important in terms of the way it was made and what was made here in just a little bit when we talk about Oscars. But yeah, I think it was really fantastic. So let's jump in here with my favorite quote to this day is Eowyn when she fucking slaughters the Wraith, man. She rips off the helmet. I am no man, and just fucking kills him. It's still epic. That's my favorite.
The Witch King.
Yeah, the Witch King.
That part's awesome.
That's my favorite.
The Witch King is like such a cool character. And like he's such a Darth Vader in this movie when you didn't have that kind of imposing figure in any of the previous. I mean, you had Sauron, but like, he's always way over there.
Yeah, he was always like this distant, like evil that was always looming, but he wasn't like, you needed a person.
He wasn't in your face.
Guy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like we're gonna get into good versus evil down here in just a little bit, but that's interesting how like the true bad guy in its essence, you very rarely see, and has like zero lines throughout the three films, and like 27 hours of movie making. It's just crazy. And yet he's this power. It's this powerful force that just can't be reckoned with, which isn't it. I don't know. It's incredibly fascinating. Tripp, favorite quotes. You know, man.
Let me find out. I put one here. So I think in all three movies I had like a least favorite quote where there was a line, I can't remember what it was in the previous movies, but like just a line that makes me cringe. And in this one, I hope this isn't anybody's favorite, but it's the part where
here comes Sam, right? Go ahead, keep going.
No, this is the first one that's not from Samwise. It's when Gimli and Legolas are about to like go into the battle, and Gimli says, "Never thought I'd die fighting side by side with an elf," and Legolas says, "What about side by side with a friend?" And that one line just bugs me so much. I hate that line.
Yeah, it's pure cheese. It's pure cheese.
That was like
Yeah.
it was like Randy Newman came in and fucking wrote a line of dialogue for Peter Jackson. You know,
Yeah,
like,
it's so bad. It's like that part just makes me want to shrivel up and die.
You've got a friend in me, Master Dwarf.
Yeah. That one line leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But my favorite line, I think I didn't put it in my notes, but I believe it's Gimli that says, "Certainty of death, small chances of success. What are we waiting for?"
Absolutely.
I love that line.
Yeah.
And I think my favorite line has been Gimli in all three movies. My least favorite has been Samwise in the previous one.
I definitely wrote down that Gimli one as well as one of my options.
Sam, what about you? You got a notebook?
No, it's hard.
Yeah, that notebook he held up is just the script.
Yeah.
He just circled, highlighted every line.
Yeah.
It's hard not to pick like one of Aragorn's his speech before they
Right.
Black Gate, and it's hard not to pick Theoden when they roll up to Pelennor Fields. I mean, that whole scene is just super epic.
Right.
So I'm gonna go with the funny one from the extended cut because those two are majestic. I feel like me reading them doesn't even do them justice for how they go in the movie. But it's right at the beginning when Gimli challenges Legolas to a drinking game.
I almost picked that one.
Oh yes.
He's clearly just hammered, and he goes, "It's the dwarves that go swimming with little hairy women." And then he passes out. It's perfect.
Well, no. Then he says, like Legolas says, "I think I feel something in my head," and he says, I told you couldn't hold your liquor." Then he passes out.
It's Gimli is just comic relief this entire movie. It's
He's great.
Yeah, their whole dynamic is really like it's very yin and yang, and it works to a very interesting comic relief throughout the three films. It's really great. Matt, what about you?
Agreed.
Well, it comes on. I mean, my first choice was absolutely when Éowyn takes off the helmet and says, "I am no man." I mean, just the way she delivers that line is just absolutely. I mean, I remember every hair on my body standing up when she delivered that line, sitting in the theater for the first time watching it. It was just epic.
You know it's coming though. Like
you
that's
do.
the thing. Like, yeah, and because the Witch King delivers his fucking line, and it's fucking coming. And it's like it could have been so bad, but she fucking nails it. Like just
that delivery is just so spot on. I loved it. But I have to again come back to Gimli, and it's sort of a throwaway line in response to somebody else's line when I think it's Pippin says, "The salted pork is particularly good." and Gimli has this look on his face. You can see drool coming down his face. He's like, "Salted pork?" It was just so because they're just famished and they haven't eaten anything other than probably, moldy stale biscuits for, weeks. And he hears salted pork and he just loses it. I absolutely love that exchange.
Mushy lambus bread or whatever they can find or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is Gimli's like I said, he's just really underrated. The Merry and Pippin are supposed to be the comic relief throughout much of it. They have a very interesting character arc in this final version of the film because they kind of lose that, and it's kind of made up in other spots by other characters, which is really interesting. Um, I've always wondered why there wasn't, and I understand like the seriousness of the quest and stuff like that, but like I was thinking about this today, and we really like we the last two pods on this, we've really ragged on Sam quite a bit, and that whole we're gonna get
I
to
mean, he sucks in the first two movies. I'll say.
we'll get to Sam. He redeems himself in this fucking movie. I'm Tripp, I'm
Yeah,
with you, man.
100%.
I've had some interesting conversations about our harsh takes on Sam recently, so it's okay, it's fine. But he redeems himself in this film, and I believe. But um, I wonder, like, would it have killed the story if they had just had some comic relief in the whole Sam Frodo, even Gollum added into it and stuff? Like, I don't know. Like if that would have just killed the
Yeah, there's not a
vibe.
lot. It like the movie gets very serious anytime it cuts to them.
Oh,
Yeah,
it gets so dark. I mean, they're going into
Like hell, basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, and
So it makes sense. Like they are, I guess they are the pillar of seriousness of the film. Like you have the action, you have the comic relief occasionally, and then it's just like this is the dramatic part. Like this is the pillar of doom, so to speak, if I could be over the top. But I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, there's just nothing funny about this, like them ever. Like, and there's so many other funny parts throughout the
Mhm.
films and stuff. So interesting. This is always my favorite thing to do. Sam and I started this tradition when we did Gladiator. To read the IMDb synopsis of a film, which is basically a 1 to 3 sentence uh like plot setting of the movie and everything. So we said the runtime on this was 3 hours and 21 minutes theatrically, or 4 hours and 16 minutes for the extended cut. IMDb says, fuck that shit. I'm reducing it down to 1 sentence. Here we go. This is the IMDb synopsis of the film. Gandalf and Aragorn lead the world of men against Sauron's army in order to draw his gaze from Frodo and Sam as they approach Mount Doom with the One Ring. That's it.
I mean, they're not wrong.
I do
that's like
not.
one part of the movie. It's just one part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They kind of they could have thrown in a couple sentences here, man. Like I think they could have I'm not sure what it would be. Like, how do you reduce something down to 1 sentence? But IMDb seems to fucking figure it out every time. Like it's just ridiculous. Fuck you, Peter Jackson, in your 4 hours and 16 cut extended. Here's 1 sentence to explain the whole thing. To say nothing of the insult.
Now you don't even need to watch it.
Yep, you don't even need to watch it. Fuck you, Tolkien. We got this. Here it is. But
I mean, they could just, do a quick synopsis that says some fictional characters do some stuff.
True.
Yeah.
Could have been worse.
The end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In a world. Some fictional
In a world.
But history was made with this, guys. History was made with this movie. This is still to date the only time in history this has ever happened, in 2004 Oscars. And the only time still, 20 years later, it's the only film to have done this. It is the only film to win every single category it was nominated in. 11 Oscars. That's a sweep, baby. Holy cow.
Crazy.
Just nuts, man. Unbelievable run. Unbelievable run. So I brought up some of the other nominees just because I wanted to kind of take a look at some of the more popular ones, but let's take a look at some of this stuff. So it wins we'll talk about these, but obviously the big one, it won Best Picture. So and I have to say, usually I can man, I'm always one to play devil's advocate when it comes to the Oscars and stuff, man. But I have to say that they got it right. I'm pretty sure Lord of the Rings Return of the King wins Best Picture over Lost in Translation, Mystic River, Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World, and Seabiscuit. Right? That went like the I can't even make an argument as much as I love Seabiscuit. And Master Commander is actually really well shot, but I'm not a big fan of the film.
Yeah, I didn't like that movie very much. I thought it was good, but not great.
It doesn't win.
I actually never saw that movie, so I've heard it's good, but I haven't seen it.
I think you'd like it, Matt. It's really well shot. I think and I'm not trying to rag on Mystic River, Lost in Translation. I think they're also really good films. I just like Return of the King just kills this. Like just destroy. Like how Sam, for you, because I know this is your favorite, right? Like it went up against I guess this is really an insult to these other films, but like the tier down. Like usually there's like, oh, that one should really good too. Like that's a really good film, blah, blah, blah. Like how did it, lose to that? But like this is an easy call. Like there's not even an argument to be made, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I agree with you. I mean, I enjoyed Master and Commander. It's a well shot movie. Seabiscuit's a great movie, but it's not better than this movie. It's not. Like there's
Yep.
I don't know what the vote is for if they ever publish a vote in the Oscars about how it went, but I don't think it would have been close.
Well, and this Best Picture award was really it felt like it was an award for the whole trilogy.
Yeah.
As well. It was like, look, this was the swan song closing act of this incredible cinematic trilogy. So this Best Picture award is for the whole thing.
That's how it really felt.
Yeah.
Like this Best Picture is for the whole series.
Mhm.
All
Yeah,
three
like-
movies combined.
We fucked up the last 2 years. We're gonna make up for it on this one, by God.
Yeah, I still disagree. I mean, Two Towers should have won the year before, but
Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting. We can have that interesting discussion. Peter Jackson also winning Best Director. That was also kind of an obvious one for me.
Yeah.
He was up against Sofia Coppola and Sofia Coppola, Lost in Translation, Peter Weir, Master and Commander, Clint Eastwood for Mystic River. Here's the wild card of it though. And I don't know if has anyone seen City of God? Fernando Meirelles is the director.
No.
It's so fucking good. Oh, it's so good. It's such a great film.
It's one of those movies that like has always been on a list in my head, but I've never actually watched.
Oh God, you got to see
And
it, man.
I
It's
think
so
Mystic
fucking
River is
good.
also a very good movie, but but it's not Clint Eastwood's best movie in my opinion. But I think it's very good. But yeah,
Right.
The Return of the King, forget about it.
Yeah, it's just Peter Jackson again, just unbelievable. Wasn't even nominated the previous year, by the way. Roman Polanski won for The Pianist.
Mm-hmm.
If we remember that, which is crazy.
Which and that movie is also very good. But yeah, Peter Jackson not being nominated, nonsense.
Yeah. So yeah, Chicago won Best Picture the previous year. Which they need to revitalize that genre. That's my side take for 2003 Oscars. Like more. If you're gonna let's bring back that genre, so like we can actually have some reference point. And because I think Chicago actually is a brilliant film, just really nothing to really compare it to. Like, at least in the modern era, it's like, oh, Chicago way better than White Christmas. Like they're not even this. It's not even the same fucking galaxy. Like in terms of filmmaking. But it's like the same genre. But going back to 2004's winners, so it also takes home Best Picture, Best Director, Best Writing Adapted Screenplay. So this Fran Walsh.
What was it up against in that category?
Yeah, so really. I really don't see that too big of a contender here. This is pretty interesting. Why can't I find this? I had it bookmarked. Thank you very much, Bear. So the nominees: City of God, okay, Mystic River, Seabiscuit, and American Splendor, which I haven't seen. Heard about it. Haven't seen it. Seen the other three. I thought that the way that the script was written in Seabiscuit was interesting. The overlays of like the radio broadcasts and stuff, like it was really well. That's more shot, but the script is interesting too. So, but like we talked about, with the exception of Tripp's one line that we pulled out, the piece of dialogue that Randy Newman inserted for Peter Jackson, like this is a pretty flawless script for me. Like it
Yeah,
just
I think
runs
so too.
just runs together really well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, they also had the task of tackling the density that is the book Return of the King,
mhm.
and turning that into a 3 hour. Like Tripp said a second ago, it was like this movie could have been 9 hours long
Right.
with everything that's in this book. We're able to turn it into a brilliant 3 hour movie that wraps up a trilogy.
Mhm.
We all saw how Game of Thrones failed to wrap up that series. Like it's what could have happened in 2003, but they nailed it.
It wins for
So
best
they nailed
visual
it for
Right. It wins for best visual effects. It goes up against Pirates of the Caribbean and Master and Commander, which is fine. I'm with that, of course.
I think that's again an easy win.
That's an easy win.
And I think didn't it win best special effects all 3 years?
It was up for the nom all 3 years. The one that it was interesting to me was film editing. Jamie Selkirk, who actually edited all three, wins the Oscar for Lord of the Rings: Return of the King. This dude, like, if you look at his IMDb page, he's got nothing impressive leading up to this. And he ended up producing a couple of cool films later, but he's got nothing impressive leading up to this, really. And then he does King Kong, Peter Jackson's next film. And then that's it. This guy hasn't edited a film, didn't edit another film until 2017, a film that I still haven't seen. And that's it. Like,
Oh.
dude, like Jamie Selkirk pulling off the Shane and just riding off into the sunset, man. Like, fuck it, I've done it.
Oh. No, you know what? I just looked him up on IMDb. So he was he must have been one of Peter Jackson's OG crew, because
Right.
he edited Bad Taste, Meet the
Right.
Feebles, Dead Alive, and The Frighteners.
Yeah, he's
which
a
were
Peter
like all
Jackson
of
guy.
Peter Jackson major
Yeah.
movies.
But
But
yeah,
yeah, it's weird that he didn't edit anything since then.
yeah, Peter. I mean, this launched Peter.
But I guess
Jackson's
Peter Jackson
career.
also hasn't directed much since then.
Yeah, and this put Peter Jackson on the map, right? Like he hasn't had a long-standing career, but this was his thing. Like, shout out to Jamie Selkirk though for beating out Walter Murch in this category, who's just like an icon in film, right? So he beats out Walter Murch for Cold Mountain, Daniel Resende, City of God, Lee Smith, Master and Commander, William Goldenberg too for Seabiscuit. So I mean, he beat out two icons in the industry in Goldenberg and Murch, and just yep, cool. I did it. I'm done. Good stuff. Wins for makeup, Pirates of the Caribbean, Master Commander, the other nominees. Best original score, Howard Shore coming through. Beat out Danny Elfman.
I think that's still, I think that's no contest. Like, the score in this movie is incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, it adds so much emotion to every scene.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, Howard Shore is brilliant. Like, Howard Shore's throughout the entire series. Like, he's really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's some of the best movie music ever composed.
Yeah.
And it is so, I mean,
yeah, I wanted to get
so
your take on this, Matt. You're a music guy.
stylized.
You're a music guy, so I wanted to get your take on this. Yeah, go for it.
It's so I talked about it on the Two Towers show. It's so perfectly stylized for the scenes, for the characters. Every character's, because it's very common that in movies, good composers give each of the main characters their own musical theme.
Mm-hmm.
And each one is stylized perfectly for the character. And yet they also mesh together in this symphonic masterpiece that he rightfully won the Academy Award for Fellowship, Two Towers, not he didn't get the original score Oscar for Return of the King, but he did get best original song for Into the West.
Mm-hmm.
So he got best original song, but not for best original score. I mean, it's brilliant. And not to jump, I'm sorry if I'm jumping ahead, but when Pippin sings to
Oh, Denethor.
Denethor.
to Lord Denethor,
Oh shit.
that is absolutely haunting. And that's the lyrics were taken from one of Tolkien's sort of poetic takes, and the um the melody the melody for that song was actually written by Billy Boyd, who plays Pippin.
Right.
Oh wow.
He actually wrote the melody to sing those lyrics along with, and sang it, in the film. I mean, it was recorded at a studio, but that's him. And he actually wrote that melody to go along with. And the melody is haunting. And that scene, the way where Denethor is stuffing his face and being all gluttonous, and there's so
Yeah.
much symbolism in it, it just blows my mind. And then the cuts to the battle scenes with this soft, haunting music behind it. It's just, oh my gosh, I can't even take it. There's so much depth in this whole series, and that scene is just another one of those. And again, the way they use the music, and Howard Shore puts that slowly building symphonic swell behind what Pippin is singing. It's just, you can't even take it. It's incredible.
I'm totally stepping on best scene here. So this sucks. Like spoiler alert. I have a serious take about that scene. I think that scene in its entirety, the aesthetic, the score, the acting, can't really say the script, there's not much talking, but the way it's shot,
Yeah.
the way it's lit, the way it's mixed is probably the best shot, best scene filmed in the 21st century.
It's
And
up there.
that's my hot take. I just can't think of anything else in the last 20 years that combines all of those things so perfectly. I guess the nitpick is the no script, right? There's really not talking, but like the music, the song, the lyrics make up for it. It's just fucking amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and what Pippin says before he starts singing is he's like, I'm just I don't remember exactly what he says, but something along the lines of, I'm just a hobbit. We don't have songs for dangerous times and lofty halls or something like that. And Denethor is like, is your song not good enough, or is my hall not good enough for your song? Go ahead, sing. And I'm with you 100%, Bear. It's just there's no words that need to be spoken. There's no dialogue needed.
Mhm.
The depth of the lyrics of those words that are being sung, with the hauntingness of the way the melody falls, and cut back with the juxtaposition, cut back and forth with the battle scenes, and with Denethor. I mean, the gluttony of
Just stuff in
Denethor
his face.
stuffing his face.
Yeah,
And
so
it's
man.
again, I know
Yeah.
these authors go back to these biblical roots where they take from biblical symbolism, and it's that whole eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die thing. It's like, it's just so deep. I agree, that scene is one of the best ever put on film.
The mixing is like, so it's Selkirk, right? It's editing here. So like he dials down the sound of battle, the clashing, the clanking is much more a dialed down volume to Denethor's eating, the song, the score is at a higher pitched
Yeah.
volume. It's just so fucking good. Like it's just amazing. It's just one of the best shot things I've ever seen, man. I just, and I'm a Gordon Willis fan. So like the fact that Gordon Willis didn't shoot it was like was, I mean, just incredible. It was just incredible. So, well, I mean, some of these other ones, I mean, were pretty kind of obvious winners too. So, I mean, best film editing, Selkirk, I mentioned, best art direction and set decoration. I mean, pretty good stuff there. Best costume design. I think the costumes in this are, I think the thing that Pippin wears and like the garb of Gandor, the tree of life and stuff, is just really beautiful. The way that they did that. Best makeup, best music original score, best music original song, best sound mixing. It's probably for just that fucking scene. Best visual effects. 11 Oscars in total, a clean sweep, first time in history.
You know what's hilarious too is 2 other films have won 11 Oscars. It's the most ever. Titanic is one, Ben-Hur is the other.
Wow.
But Titanic, so Bernard Hill has been a part of 22 Oscars in those 2 movies.
Wow.
Because he's
Yeah.
the captain in Titanic.
That's right. Theoden King, man. Rocket. Love me some Theoden, even though I hate him in the first half of this film. No, so Sam, you mentioned this is like one of your favorite films of all time. Like what, top 5, top 3?
Top 5 for sure.
Top 5
I'd
for
say.
sure.
I feel like the pace changes and the 5 move around, but
yeah.
top 5 for sure.
As
is
Fellowship,
Two Towers.
or two?
Top
Okay, so both of those are in your top 5. Okay. Tripp, where does this rank? Top 5, top 10, top 50?
I would say Two Towers and Return of the King are in my top 50.
Okay. Matt, what
Two
about
Towers
you?
might be top 10.
Two Towers might be top 10?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'd say the whole series lands in my top 25 of all time. I can't really say exactly where each of them rank, but just thinking off the top of my head about the movies that I've loved in my life and would rewatch at any given opportunity. These are all 3 of these movies are absolutely in the top 25 for me of all time.
Yeah.
And it's hard too because it's just one cohesive story with all 3 movies.
Yeah,
Right.
it's kind of hard to separate them. Like to me, when I think of them, I think of it as one super long movie.
Yeah. And I have done the marathon viewing before. It was years ago, but I had a Saturday once where I did extended cuts of all 3.
Nice.
It started in the morning and it ended at night, and that was a long day, but it was really a cool experience and I tried so hard to just focus on the screen, put away my phone and social media and all that stuff, and just focus on what was happening on the screen. It was a cool experience. I don't really recommend it because it's basically you're giving up a whole day. But
When this came out, I remember there were theaters around me doing a marathon where you would watch Fellowship of the Ring, then Two Towers, and then at midnight, Return of the King would start.
yeah.
And it was like, who has time to do this? Stay up till 4 a.m.
A lot of nerds
after
man.
getting
A
to
lot
the
of
theater
nerds.
at like 7 p.m.
Yeah. I've done the marathon as well. I did extended cut too. A lot of day drinking. That was fun. That was good. Good times.
It's
I mean, it's
perfect.
kind of a must when you're spending 12 hours watching movies, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I feel like we've all probably done it, but now I want to like smoke a brisket and just like sit outside, smoke cigars,
Yes.
watch all three extended cut films.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
And at the end, you
that's
get
the way to do it. And at the end, you have brisket. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, Sam may be younger than all of us by like, 15, 20 years, but I tell you what, man, he's got the 40-year-old man syndrome. Like when men turn 40, it's like smoked meat or Civil War history. It's just one of the two. I think it's like a
Why
Jeff
not
Foxworthy
both?
joke. Yeah, no, man, dude, I'm into it. That's fine. Yeah. It's like a Jeff Foxworthy joke I stole from him. It's
Yeah.
like, yeah, when men turn 40, they get in they get into one of two things. Um no, I think I've dude, I've watched so many fucking films in my life. I'm
Yeah, that's what makes it so hard for me to
that's
categorize.
yeah. So if so I have two takes on this. Is in terms of favorites, like all three are definitely in my top 50. Return of the King is probably in the top 40. Two Towers is probably the top 30. And Fellowship somewhere in between there. But um I in terms of filmmaking, I think both this and Towers are shit, man. They've got to be top 15, top 10 for me.
Yeah,
Like
in
it's
terms of like best films ever
like
made, for
best
sure.
films ever made, like in my opinion. I've rewatched it on a loop this last week. It's just so fucking good. It's just so well made. Um, the fact that you basically have three Helms Deeps in it, and I still think Helms Deep beats them all, but that being said, I think it's just incredibly well done. So, wanted to get into some themes, but before that, wanted to go ahead and bring in our first sponsored segment of the night, which is our presidential trivia segment sponsored by United Cigars, featuring La Gianna Havana and distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero, Garofalo, and the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united, as well as tonight's guests, Mr. Tripp Waldrop, Sam Spencer, and Matt Tyre, all here, brought to you by United Cigars. Smoke one today and start living united. So this is our presidential trivia segment, gentlemen. I actually wanted to have a little fun with this tonight. So Oliver, sorry about this. We're going to take a break from presidential trivia, but I thought this would be fun. I want to put you guys on the spot. Y'all ready for this? I want you guys to name your top presidential ticket. That means a president and vice presidential candidate using the characters from the film. And if you want, I can go first because I have a very good take on this.
I think you're gonna have to go first. We all got to think about it.
That's fine. I'm totally game for this because I have a hot take on this.
I've got mine.
She's more prominent in the books for sure, and she's more prominent in the previous two films. But my presidential nominee is Galadriel, and her vice presidential candidate is Elrod. Dude. The elvish wisdom, dude. Like, you know what? They may not have known what to do with Arwen and let her like actually live her own life. You know what? They can have that flaw, but they know how to fucking run a society, man. Like I'm just saying, like they can take over I'm good with that. Galadriel was my presidential nominee.
All right, I've got mine. I'm going to say Aragorn for president and Mary Ann Pippin for vice president. Co-vice president.
It's the job that doesn't really do that much.
You gotta get dude. They are halflings. Dude. You gotta. They make one whole person.
Exactly. Each of them is half of a man.
Yeah, it's good. Oh, nice.
Oh man, this is tough. I thought about going the Pippin route for president.
Oh, nice.
Just cause chaos in that country.
You always have to look. You always look.
And
give some
I
throwback.
Can't remember the name of the role.
give some throwback to Lyndon Johnson. You always have to look. Sorry. Anyway, presidential joke. It's fine.
What's the role of the person who holds all the press conferences?
The press secretary.
Press secretary.
Press secretary would be the mouth of Sauron.
Oh shit, dude. Dude, that character, I know it's all like visual effect, dude. That character fucking steals like the screen, dude. Like you can't take your eyes off of
I
him.
love that character. It's so cool.
It's so you can't take your eyes off of. You're not trying. You're like, am I disturbed? Am I grossed out? Am I fascinated? What the fuck is going on with my senses right now?
All of the above.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Is he only in the extended? I've got my versions are all meshed in my. But is it?
I don't remember.
In the extended version?
I
he's
think
in
it's
the
only
theatrical.
the extended.
Okay.
Oh, really?
I think he might be theatrical. I watched extended, so
Oh,
interesting. Man, what
I don't know the
a
last time I
terrible
watched it.
take. What a terrible take if he's only in theatrical, man. That would suck.
Seriously. Well, and now I want to read the books because Jay Davis said in the comments that The Witch King and The Mouth of Sauron both like are weak in the movie, and you get way more to them in the book. So I'm like, I want to know more about those guys.
well, so not to get off track, but we can maybe touch back on it again later. But I do believe that we see multiple times in Return of the King the vulnerabilities of Sauron, especially the Eye of Sauron.
Mm-hmm.
But without, we can continue with the whole president thing. But that popped into my head.
Yeah, that's good. We could bookmark that. So, Matt, what about you, man?
Did we get sidetracked before Sam got his out?
Yeah, Sam.
no,
Oh, yeah,
Sam
Sam
got
was
this
good.
out.
Yeah, Sam was. Sam,
So I thought about taking the Pippin route.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Gimli for president.
Nice.
You know, just the stoic. You never know what he's gonna do demeanor. And then I'm gonna go with oh man, Éomer for VP. Just he seems like the kind of guy you just call and be like, I got to bury a dead body. Needs to be like, where you at? Carl Urban just plays the role perfectly. I know he's in Two Towers a lot more. He's a much bigger character in that movie. I'm Gimli, and then Éomer.
Yeah, for me, I have to agree with Tripp that Aragorn would be a great president.
He's a born leader. It's like one of the major themes of this movie.
Yeah.
He's also the like reluctant leader.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
That's what you want.
He's a reluctant leader. He's quiet until it's called for him to speak. He analyzes situations. He's not brash. He's not a braggart. So I would go with him for
he's selfless
president. For vice president, I think I'm going to throw Gimli in there for not only comic relief, but also because he would just make the White House fun again. It would just be.
We need hats with that.
Yeah, I mean, he would just he'd have like, big, horns of ale and salted pork, and it would just. I would love it. I would love it.
He would do tours of the White House, and he would hand out like beards to put on people, like or axes for the children. It would be totally inappropriate, but it'd be fun. Like just make the White House fun again. Gimli for VP. Sounds good.
He would just always get a little drunk,
Just a little.
Yeah, just a little drunk. Yeah. Just to keep it froggy. Nothing too.
And Aragorn would only call him out into public service long enough to like dedicate a bridge or christen a new, naval vessel or something, and then it's like, okay, Gimli, get back in your
in the cave.
Back in the cave, and have another drink.
Gimli, your job is to pardon the turkey this year.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't fuck this up, okay? No, I think I think the take on
Gimli
Aragorn
would instantly chop the turkey head off.
That's exactly what I was thinking, Matt. Like Gimli's got his axe ready, and he's like, "Oh, you wanted me to pardon the turkey?"
I thought we were butchering the turkey.
Yeah, which look like good eats to me. It's fine.
Yeah, he'd be like, best not let it go to waste.
I I think that like Aragorn's leadership is just really. I was thinking about that today, man. So it's interesting that you kind of just pinpointed it with it. But like when he leads the charge, he's like this. Like even when he's like leading the charge, he's the first one off the line. Against the army of at the gates of Sauron and excuse me, of Mordor rather. And he the words out of his mouth are just, this is for Frodo, you know, and he's the first off the line, which I also think interesting. So here's your validation here, Sam. The next two off the line are Merry and Pippin. Which I mean, what a
I
character
love
arc for
that
those
part.
guys.
That like, yeah, all three of them are like, if nobody else is coming with me, I'm going to fight. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what happens, I'm going to fight.
Yeah.
And even throughout like the whole film, like because they get to like develop on their own in this film as characters. Because before this movie, it's like they were together. They were like a package deal.
Yeah.
There's Mary, and then they go out on their own, and they're both like, "Let's get in the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fuck up some." And like both of them are like, "No." Gandalf's like, "No, go back to the Citadel." And Theoden's like, "No, like you're not going with us."
I think, man, what a freaking call out by Merry on Pippin though, when he's about to leave with Gandalf and he's like, you have to look, you always look, and he's fucking calling his shit out for the same shenanigans that he's done since the first film. And like, and the guy, like, yeah, they're looking for you. They think you have the ring. Here's the last of the tobacco. Here's the last of the long bottom leaf. Like, he's like, it's almost gone. He's like, yeah, you smoke too much, Pippin, you dipshit. Like, oh my God, dude. He's just so fucking, he's just fucking cold. Just cold, man.
I think it's hilarious too because I've seen all these memes on social media. Somehow I get all these Lord of the Rings things get
Yeah,
advertised to me.
shocker. Yeah.
Somehow.
But yeah, somehow. But it's like Sauron trying to figure out their plan. It's like Pippin on his last brain cell, just has no idea what the plan is.
Good stuff. Well, those were our presidential ticket nominees for, and this was our presidential trivia segment brought to you by United Cigars, featuring La Giana Havana, distributors of Jose Dominguez, Bandolero Garofalo, the Firecracker, and the highly acclaimed Atabey, Byron, and now Alfonso lines from Selected Tobacco. Smoke one today and start living united. So wanted to I had some topics here for us to kind of go through. I think there was a lot of themes, and we've covered this in previous pods, but I just thought that like we talked a little bit about this already, and I wanted to give us an opportunity to talk about it. So Tripp and I are on the same page. We're pretty fucking hard on Sam, the first two films. Samwise is a little, it's just bad, but there's this.
He's Luke Skywalker for 5 hours from New Hope.
Yeah.
Like, just whiny, doesn't want to go anywhere.
Always wants to make 10 breakfasts, like just it's bad. But there's something to be said about we're going to talk about redemption here in a second. I don't want to step on that, but I think while there's really great acts of friendship in the previous two films, specifically with Sam and the other characters as well, I think the overlying theme of the entire three films, friendships is one of those constants. And one of the things that I really like about the friendship theme that kind of carries itself throughout the entire is the intense loyalty that, even though they're apart for a lot of this film and they're kind of broken in, the fellowship,
they're like completely spread out across Middle Earth,
and their undying loyalty to each other, regardless of that, is still very much felt through the entire film, which I think is which makes Peter Jackson extremely brilliant on this point. But I'm a really big fan of how a lot of the friendship circles, and like, one of the 20 endings that happens, when Frodo's recuperating and everybody comes into the room and everyone's just rejoicing again. It's that full circle from Fellowship that kind of comes back full circle a little bit, which is nice. I just really love the friendship arc, throughout the three films. But what do you guys take on friendship here for themes?
All right, I'll start. Sam, Sam, I mean, it's hard to talk about this without talking about Sam's redemption arc at the same time. But Sam goes from being very trying to keep Frodo safe to kind of realizing that they have a goal and he needs to be there for Frodo because Frodo can't do this by himself. And it's just the two of them with Gollum tagging along.
Yeah.
But just the way that Sam steps up in this movie and he's there for Frodo, in his darkest hours, multiple times.
Rescues him from the den, right? The orc den.
Yeah.
And then carries him up the fucking mountain, And so I was remembering this line, and like a lot of people I've talked to about this over the years, like, oh, it's so freaking cheesy. Like, I can't carry the ring, but I can carry you. Fuck you, man. That's
I know
good
exactly.
shit.
Yeah. That
That's
line's
good
so
shit.
cheesy, but at the same time, like it means so much in the context of the story.
Oh, it's fucking good.
On its own, it's super cheesy.
Yeah, like if you just requote it, like that's why it's not one of my favorite quotes of the film, because you just can't repeat it without the context of everything. Like it's really good. It's a really good moment. And I really like it. We can talk about the redemption arc. It's fine because I think it goes hand in hand with Sam's character.
Yeah, exactly.
So
sorry.
It's also interesting too because I think in the whole series, Sam is the only one who gives up the ring willingly.
Yeah,
he hands it back.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about that.
So, which begs the question. Which begs the question is, who was actually the chosen one then to carry it? Was it really the literal bearer of the ring? Was it literally Frodo, or was it Sam? I'm totally stepping in here on this friendship thing here with something else, but I think it's an important point to make.
I've been kind of boiling on this for 20 years. Sam is the hero of the story.
Okay.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sam's the hero.
Yeah.
Because in the end, the only reason that the ring ended up destroyed by the lava was an accidental scuffle, or it was so Frodo gave in and said, I'm going to keep the ring for myself. And then Gollum jumped on Frodo and bit his finger off and took the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And a scuffle ensued and they go falling down, and Gollum and the ring end up in the lava, and Frodo ends up hanging on by onto the cliff, and Sam saves him. Sam is the hero of the story. And that's the way I felt since I saw the movie, and I still feel that way today. Now, the friendship arc is extremely important because the reason, Frodo carried the weight of that ring and that responsibility all that way. But he could not have done so without Sam. He could not have done so without Aragorn and the soldiers of Gondor distracting Sauron,
mm-hmm.
In that final push. And I do believe Sam did get some redemption. I agree that some of the way they presented the character and some of the lines and some of the cheesiness in the first couple movies was a little much. But he definitely got his redemption in this film. And
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting because after the ring is destroyed, Sam doesn't say much.
Yeah.
So
No, he goes and
I mean,
gets his
nobody really-
bride, man, and just,
there's not a lot of dialogue after the ring is destroyed, actually. But
That's one of the interesting things too, is that of one of the people who gets their own like ending, like Aragorn gets his ending with being crowned king, but Sam is one of those people who gets his own ending.
yeah.
Pippin don't, Gimli doesn't, Legolas doesn't.
In the books they do,
But,
but that's neither here nor there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, in the film, Sam does, and I think that kind of portrays like the importance of this character.
yeah. But you think when Frodo is standing on that ledge over the lava and he puts that ring on, if it wasn't for Gollum, the ring wouldn't have been destroyed.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe if Gollum wouldn't have been there or something else would have happened, maybe Sam just would have said, I'm going to take one for the team and gone and tackled Frodo and they both go into the lava together. I don't know. But
Yeah.
it's really Sam that Sam saves the day.
He's the catalyst for
Mhm.
for finishing the mission.
Yeah.
I have a take on this as well, because that scene where Frodo decides to keep the ring and puts it on is like a mirror of a scene I think it's in the first movie at the beginning, where Isildur keeps the ring and Elrond is standing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a mirror, totally.
And Elrond doesn't do anything about it. And he could have, but Sam, like, I have no doubt in my mind, if Gollum's not there, like, Sam tries to destroy the ring.
Yeah.
Whereas Elrond stood by and didn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah, he
That's
let
why- that's
Isildur walk out.
That's why he's my VP candidate, guys. No, it's an interesting. It's an interesting observation. I think, like I said, I think he's incredibly weak in the first two films, and a weak character. Like, you wonder why he's there. But Matt, that's a really hot take. I like it. I'm not necessarily like I'm not going to disagree with you at all. I think that's a really interesting, because I mean, like, all the signs point to it. His redemption arc is just so clean in this. Like, it's really fantastic. And you start to see glimpses of it in Two Towers a little bit, mostly, but the problem with the way that it's constructed is it looks like he's being a whiny little bitch because now Gollum's in the mix, and it's almost like feigns jealousy a little bit, instead of mistrust. Like, it's the way that the script is written. I think it's intentionally misleading to make you feel that way. Like, I don't think that was by accident. I don't think that Sean Astin playing, a version of it. I think it's very much intentional to kind of confuse the audience a bit so that it can build up towards
I agree.
this.
I agree.
So-
I think Peter Jackson wanted to build up some false tension there for the audience.
Yeah. It's just really good.
So Frodo actually like sends him home.
Yeah.
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 Turns around, comes back. He's like, no, that's the theme of loyalty again.
Right.
It's like he's the one that gets Frodo through this, because Frodo's carrying the burden. And it's cool because throughout this film, you can see the scars around Frodo's neck grow too, of how heavy the ring is.
Yeah.
So wanted to bring in the theme of, so we've touched a little bit on it. We're going to go back to good versus evil. I want to skip to redemption, because I think redemption is probably the theme of the film.
Yeah.
Because we just talked about Sam, but like Pippin, Merry, they have their own redemption as well. Like, which characters in your mind, other than the ones I just mentioned, are seeking redemption, and why are they seeking it?
I mean, I think Theoden is a big one.
Yeah.
He kind of digs himself in a hole in the beginning of this movie. He doesn't come in redemption, but that's a big one, especially with the scene at the beginning where Saruman is like, the victory at Helm's Deep is not yours. Like, you didn't lead them to victory, insinuating that Aragorn did. And like that, like, you can tell it bothers him throughout the film, because like at the party, Eowyn like toast him, like, this is for you. He said, I didn't lead our people to victory at Helm's Deep. Like, you can tell he feels like he's not living up to his ancestors. Like they
Yeah.
do the answers
Mhm.
throughout and then you get the Battle of Pelennor Fields where he leads the charge from the front, inspires the men, and is redeemed and ultimately dies. But I think Theoden is a big redemption story in this film.
He answers the call,
Uh,
like he answers the call, when the fires are all lit and stuff, which is also brilliantly shot, by the way. Holy shit.
Dude, that part is so good. The
So
way
good.
that whole scene is filmed is so good.
Oh, and the way he delivers the line, everyone runs in the room. It's like Gondor calls for aid. It's just instantly just looks him, and Rohan will answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It's
there's so many opportunities for like lines to be cheesy in this, but he's not like they then still my all-time line deliverer in this whole like the whole series. Like, and so it begins is still my fucking favorite line. It's so good. Like just the way he does it. He's so brilliant. He's such a brilliant actor. But um but like I mean, show of hands, I honestly didn't know what the fuck he was gonna say. Like I thought he was gonna be like, we're gonna talk about that. Like it was gonna end up being like I thought originally, like the first time I saw the film, like I thought Aragorn was gonna have to fucking talk him into it because of his original like reluctance at the beginning. I was like, you piece of shit, you're gonna fucking put it off again, aren't you? Freaking hated Theoden.
It did
Like
seem like they
afterwards,
were
it's crazy.
setting it up for that.
Yeah, and like again, there was like to your point, like I think he just is a very redeeming character. And even the way he shuns Eowyn, and sends her and Mary off, and she saves him, and well, saves God saves the day. I mean, yeah, I mean, Aragorn comes
Saves the
in with,
planet.
yeah, it just. I've got a take on her. We're going to talk about her in just a second on this one of these other themes. But with Theoden, like when he, on his deathbed, so to speak, and he's dying in her arms, like he says, you already dead. Like you saved me. Like that's like he makes up for all the shit that he said in the first like 20 minutes of the movie, man. Like I'm like, God dang it, Theoden. Like, all right, dude, you're the man. All right, cool, good. Thank you for realizing what a badass she is, and I had to take you dying, you son of a
I think
bitch.
part of the
That's
theme
fine.
of I think part of the theme of redemption in this movie is redemption carried over for actions in previous movies, mostly Two Towers.
Right.
Because I think it's only in the extended edition. Wormtongue gets his redemption
Mm-hmm.
when he stabs Saruman,
Yeah.
and he's pivotal in that whole scene. And I mean he was a bad guy in
Yeah.
Two Towers.
Well, talk about forgiveness. Like I think that's one of Theoden's most redeeming parts of while he's being a shithead for the first 20 minutes, that's the one part where he's like, come down, you're a man of Rohan. I've he's forgiving the guy. Like
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. That's actually probably that's an interesting portion of it. Um Saruman's death scene's fucking epic though. The
Yeah,
impaling
it really
on
is.
the oh god,
The
that's
impaling on the wheel and then he goes into the mud. So
yeah.
cool.
That's another thing too. It's like the first like 15 minutes or 10 minutes of this movie, you get Smeagol choking out Deagle, and you get Saruman being stabbed in the back and being impaled. And I thought like,
Well, and then the heads
he's
coming
not.
over the wall later on in the film. This fucking shit is dark, man.
Yeah.
It's fucking dark.
Oh,
It
yeah.
got really dark.
Like
I was like, it was close. I don't know how close it was to being rated R, but like,
I remember hearing at the
dark
time
shit.
that it might have been rated R.
yeah. I mean, it's pretty
And that it
fucking
was
close.
like one of the harder PG-13s of the time.
Yeah, I mean, just because the Orokai are so fucking scary, like Fellowship is on the fence about whether or not I show my 8-year-old kid that movie. I mean, I know Sam saw it when he was like fucking 6, but like I um I'm not passing judgment on your parents, Sam. I'm just saying, like for me, I'm the helicopter dad. It's fine.
I
Self-admitted.
wasn't. I was probably like, 10.
Okay, cool. Again, I'm that's the commentary on my own parenthood. I'm a helicopter dad, but like the Like Fellowship's probably the one that I would show to my oldest. And it's still like it's really on the fence because the Orc are really fucking scary, and there's some pretty graphic scenes. But like, yeah, he's not seeing Return of the King since till high school, man. That shit's fucking dark, man. It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's good. It's great film. Like, yeah, but it's just like they take it to another level. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's too much for little kids.
Well, that
Absolutely.
when Tolkien wrote this, I mean, there's so many themes of his time fighting in World War One.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like Mordor as a whole is just what a World War One battlefield looked like. But
Yes.
fellowship and friendship and redemption. It's just like he wrote this from a dark place.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, Sauron, destroying everything green in order to, stoke enough fires to make enough swords for the orcs to fight and all this. It's just that's the environment he knew. He knew like ash, breathing ash constantly from fires all around you and poison gas and literally writhing in the mud day in and day out for weeks and months at a time, hoping for your next, half can of beans to keep yourself alive. He knew that world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's one of those. He knew what war was like.
Yeah.
When he wrote a story about war. And I mean, it could have been like therapeutic to him. Like I don't know what Tolkien.
I'm sure
his view on
it
it
was. I mean, to a really large extent, I'm sure it was a very, cathartic experience for him to write this. Just like I think that's probably spot on. That's why like he has Bilbo right to there and back again, a Hobbit's Tale, right? Like that's the whole he's
Mhm.
doing a self-portrait there. Bilbo is him. He's documenting this epic journey.
Mhm.
But talking about how dark this film is, right? I think the lines of good versus evil are probably blurred a lot more in this film than any of the other two. Like
Mhm.
it's very much like the good versus evil is very clearly distinct, like in the other two films, where with this one there's a lot more gray.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this one also has the stronger good and the stronger evil.
Mhm.
Because like you don't have the Witch King and the Mouth of Sauron in the previous movies.
Right.
I don't think. Like I mean, like we talked about earlier, you don't have like a big bad. The big bad is always Sauron off in the hills
Right.
of Mount Doom.
Well, like I take for example, like Denethor. Like Denethor's not a good guy.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be, but he's not. He's on the good guy's side, but he's not.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like I think it's an interesting juxtaposition when you look at who his son was, in Boromir, who's my favorite character from Fellowship. We talked about this 2 years ago. And it's the theme of redemption, which makes him a complex, intriguing character, and why I really like him so much. But his dad, his father, Denethor, is just fucking terrible person. He's just a god awful human being.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting juxtaposition how he has, and then and to make matters worse, his doom is like he has no redemption.
Well, he's so blinded by his own apathy and and it's not until the very last split second of his life before he burns to death that he realizes how blind he had been to everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, so blind to not even notice that his own son is actually still alive and still, able to be healed and saved. He's and it's not until it's too late that he realizes it.
Mm-hmm. Still doesn't make it a redemption though. I fucking hate that guy.
Yeah, not a redemption, not a
Yeah.
redemption. And it was played really well. I don't recall the actor's name, but it was played really well, where he was just so discontent and apathetic and um utterly self-interested.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's John Noble.
Yeah,
I
John
think he-
Noble.
Noble. I was trying to think of the name, and all that came to mind was Walter from
when he was in Fringe.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does an incredible job playing Denethor.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic in this movie. He comes on screen and you're like, he looks so goofy with that hair
Hmm.
and the hairline, and like then he starts acting and you're like blown away.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a that John Noble's a that guy. Even though like he's been in
Mhm.
some pretty like he's been in a lot of great TV. Um, just like the last 15 years. Like he was in Sleepy Hollow, The Blacklist, Salvation, The Resident, Elementary. You know, uh,
He's definitely a that guy.
yeah, he's definitely a that guy. Because it's like, oh, who that? Oh, it's Denethor from Lord of the Rings. That's what he's known for. But he's just he's a very interesting character that I think is like again, I think I think it's brilliantly acted, and that's what makes him a piece of shit. So,
Yeah.
which I always can appreciate actors who do that. Like, I am the biggest fan of Denzel Washington, but like in Training Day, he fucking makes me hate him, and it's what makes him really good.
Yeah, that's what good actors make you hate them.
Yeah,
It's like up
If
there.
you want to throw a beer at somebody out of the window of the car, I shouldn't have said beer. Throw a soda out of the window of the car at somebody. Like just for acting as a character, they're doing a great job.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Well,
Heath Ledger, the Joker, as well. It's like
Yes.
just your skin.
oh yeah,
That's another one where it's like it brings it to a point where you like almost separate the actor from the character, and you're like, I hate this character so much, and you
Mhm.
don't really think about the actor underneath anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think, and then I think again you see him like again he was one of those blurred lines. It was almost like a precursor to what the entire good versus evil construct would be like when you see Faramir's blurred lines a little bit in Two Towers, and then obviously he's obviously good. He's definitely on the he's one of those very definitive people that's good. Um, Goes off to rides to his what he believed was his death too for his people and for his father and in honor of his brother's memory too. Like I mean, just like shit, man, that guy. Just stand up, dude. Like and just straight up, like one of the best. But anything else on the good versus evil? Because I want to get into the theme that we talked on last time, but I think it creeps back into this one in a really real way.
No, I don't think so. I think we can move on.
Okay, let's again. I want to bring back this theme because we talked about it before, which was sexism, and I think, well, if Theoden was my favorite character in Two Towers. I think Eowyn is probably my favorite character in this one. Not probably, she is. She's my favorite character in this film. Um, and so much more that I wish they had done more with her. But I think the parts that she's just absolutely brilliant. And
Mhm.
she like really emerges as this kind of defiant, almost kind of defiant teenager type in the Two Towers to like this like true, complete heroine in the Return of the King. Like she's absolutely sensational. And like the only time that you really see her have any fear is when she's reaching for the sword right before she slaughters the Witch King. And that's, I mean, shit, any one of us would be afraid. Like, but she's so poised and dedicated. Like, I think that line's great. I think, when she's about to ride in, she tells, Mary, she's like, courage, Mary, courage for our friends is just, man, it's still free. It gets me every time, man. Man, she hits me with that, man. She's absolutely my favorite character in this film. Love her. She's fantastic. And what a hero she is. But it's interesting that like because I know we talked a little bit about Arwen as well and Galadriel in previous pods. One, I think it's really great in one aspect that Tolkien puts heroines so, so firmly placed and everything. But I think I honestly think, given the social construct of the day, but I think he could have done a lot more with a lot more of these female characters. That's just my opinion.
I agree. I don't have much more else to say.
I mean, I definitely agree with that on the Eowyn standpoint. I think all of our opinion in the last movie is like, why does Arwen even in this movie? But
Yeah,
it feels like this weird subplot that doesn't have anything to do with the main plot. But Eowyn in this film is incredible. I agree with you. It's hard not to put her as my favorite character. Just the one-liner when she stands up to the Witch King.
so good.
It's
Oh,
so
so
good.
good. It's so fucking good. Yeah.
Yeah. Eowyn is the character's fantastic. The actor that played her is incredible. She's amazing. The range of emotion from, the romantic tension with her and Aragorn, is, just you could see that there were feelings beyond what was spoken.
Mhm.
And I'll say, just to go back to the Arwen, that I think the only reason we saw Arwen earlier in this final film was going back to the redemption topic that we were talking about earlier. The only reason that was in there was to show Elrond's redemption, because his redemption was to let her be who she wants to be.
Yeah.
That was his redemption. So that the only reason that scene was in there was to demonstrate his redemption. Otherwise, I agree. She wasn't really pivotal to the story at all. And then again at the end to show that, she comes back and Aragorn marries her and she becomes the queen, so be it. We pretty much always knew they were going to end up together.
I think her as a plot device in Return of the King doesn't bother me as much as she is in the Two Towers necessarily. I think she's pivotal in Fellowship, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we could have totally omitted her from Two Towers for the most part. But the Return of the King, I think, is really, I think to your point, she's a great plot device for Elrod's redemption, and you kind of need that scene to understand. Like she just can't fucking show up at the end and be like, "Hey, I'm here." Like it's like, well, wait, weren't you gonna leave? Weren't you like, but I think just to go back to Elrod for 2 seconds, and I think that's a great return to redemption too, Matt. Like your point about that is, like, I mean, three of the guys on this panel list are dads. Like what all three of us want a better life for our child than we've had, just like our parents wanted better lives for us. And he looked into the future and he saw death, and that's all he saw, and that's all that mattered was the death of his daughter, and he thought he was acting in her best interest, which parents always tend to do, and we've got to let them live their own lives, which is always the biggest struggle and everything. But which he ultimately does, which is great. What I really like about Eowyn, just to go back to her for 2 seconds, is that at no point in her story arc, though, at no point is she the damsel in distress.
Amen.
Not at all.
And I think that is incredibly poignant for the time, again, when it was written. But also, I mean, this was 2003, guys. I mean, this was a lot. This was 20 years ago. This is before a lot of the societal observations and opportunities, like even for women in Hollywood at the time. I mean, this is pre the whole Weinstein thing coming out. Like this, her having that pivotal of a role, her being written that way. Like, yes, they threw in the romantic piece for sure, but like, again, she was never the damsel.
Yeah.
And
she's a badass.
Yeah, she's
a badass for the whole movie.
Yeah. And I mean, that's why I think she's just a beautiful character. And Miranda Otto plays her incredibly well.
Well, and
So,
it gives her that empathetic nature that
right.
where, you know, she there are others also who want to fight but are shunned because of their size, their sex, whatever. Gives her that because she's experienced that, it gives her that empathetic nature
Mhm.
Mhm.
To sneak some other little hobbits into the battle. Well, one in particular, to say, look, they told me I couldn't fight either, but here I am. So you're gonna come with me, and we're gonna fight together.
And this
Pretty-
was an yeah, and this was an interesting observation that I had this discussion today actually. And it was brought to my attention. Like we didn't bring this up on the previous pod, and I think this is a perfect opportunity to talk about it. Because she wasn't the damsel, because she was a badass. Like for women who saw this film, how many times have they heard those things? You know,
Mhm.
and even now in 2023, if you know a young girl sees this movie for the first time, you know, and sees that, I mean, she's an incredible figure to aspire to because again, even little girls today in 2023 are told, oh, now they've done a lot to kind of correct this, and I don't want to get down too much to this beaten path with like the Disney princesses aren't really princesses anymore and things like that. Moana's a badass, you know, Raya and stuff like that. So like I mean, there's a lot more of these characters that are like her, but she's kind of, I think, you know, you can honestly make the argument that she starts this cycle towards that in
Well,
Hollywood.
especially when the book was written, right?
Right. Yeah. I
Um,
mean, going back even further, if you want to talk about when the
like
book was written.
in 2003, there weren't a lot of female badass heroines.
Right.
In 1955, there definitely weren't any.
Right. 100%. And I think it's worth noting that because I think it's worth noting the sec that like the four of us dudes could say like, oh, she's a badass. That's great. You know, like, but for women, like this is something that they have heard their entire lives.
Mhm.
You know, even now, you know, I mean, very few women can serve in combat, you know, and it's still very much a global discussion point. Um, and it's so I think her character is incredibly important for a number of levels, you know, inside film and you know even societal. But
Mhm.
um, here's my last two themes that I wanted to talk about because I thought they were interesting. We haven't really talked about him much, but Gandalf, you know, has this incredible, very pivotal performance. Ian McKellen has this incredible pivotal performance in Fellowship. He goes away for the bulk of Two Towers, saves the day, right? Don't want to go rehash the
Mhm.
two movies, um, but his role in this one, what's the goal in this story for Gandalf? What's he trying to accomplish for
In
much of
this
this?
one, I see him more as I hate like reusing words that I've already used, but I see him more his goal in this one is to be a catalyst, not to be a hero. He's there to facilitate rather than to really participate
Mm.
in this one. With you know, not only convincing but bringing is it Mary? I confuse their names all the time.
Pippin.
Pippin, he takes Pippin
Pippin.
to
Yes, he
Minas
takes
Tirith.
Pippin and like he's the whole reason he ends up there and the whole reason that Pippin ends up having that arc is that Gandalf was there for it.
Yeah, I was thinking Catalyst as well, actually. And it's interesting because his goal to get there is to make sure that the beacons are lit. So Theoden has to make that decision and to make sure that they hold long enough for Theoden to get there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. In this one, he bridges gaps and he creates opportunities for the other characters to fulfill their sort of destiny or
Yeah, exactly.
get play their role.
In this movie, his it feels like his character knows what's going to happen and is trying to just put the pieces in place.
Yeah.
Yeah, like even when you're like your favorite line for Gimli is like, chance of certain death and like what are we waiting for? Like it's interesting because Gandalf's leading that conversation, but he's not. Like you said, facilitates a really great word for that because he really is just kind of just hanging out. They're like, you fucktards, like, have you guys figured the shit out yet? Like we got here's the next step, here's what we gotta do. So I think he's an interesting character in this film. Like he's there. I mean, he saves the retreating men coming back into to Minas Tirith, rather. Excuse me. Gandorians, is that a word? Am I making that up? What? How would you say a person from Gondor? Gondorian? Is that
Gondorians?
am I making that up? I'm making that up. I have to be making that up.
Gondolorians?
Gondorians.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard that before.
Gondorians, they're
I mean, in the
gondolas.
second movie,
They're rowing boats.
they would just
Yeah.
in the second movie they would just say men of Gondor.
Yeah, men of Gondor.
Yeah.
So the men of Gondor who are retreating back to Minas Tirith, he goes out and saves from the wraiths with his beacon.
And there are those one or two, there really aren't a lot, but there are those one or two instances in this movie where Gandalf is that oracle. He's that touchstone. He's that if somebody's in distress and concerned about the next steps, and he just gives that little
nudge,
wisdom and that little nudge to encourage the character to get their focus back for what their purpose is.
Yeah, he tries to do it with Denethor. He does it with Theoden. I think he plants the bug for Theoden to say, and Rohan will answer.
Yeah. It's so interesting because at the beginning, he even tries to do it with Sauron. As far gone as Sauron is, he gives Sauron so many opportunities for redemption.
Yeah.
And Sauron rejects it. But he even tried to, out of that empathetic nature of his heart, to give Sauron a final way out to get back on the right side. It's incredible.
I love the juxtaposition of how Saruman is imprisoned at the top of his tower.
His own
His own creation. And that's where Gandalf was imprisoned as well. So it's an interesting double juxtaposition because prisoner of his own creation, and then also the fact that Gandalf's looking up at him now,
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool too because I noticed this really just a line that you can miss at the beginning, and Saruman basically says, "I'll come down if you throw away your guard. Let me not be a prisoner anymore, and I'll tell you where your doom will be. Or your doom will be decided," I think is what he says.
Yeah, where your doom will be decided.
And then Grima stabs him in the back, and then they're like, "Well, shit. Now we don't know where our doom will be decided."
Yeah.
Okay,
here's
my question about this. Why does Legolas shoot Grima Wormtongue? I mean, I'm not terribly heartbroken about the guy dying. I'm just saying, like, why does he shoot him?
I don't think he was trying to shoot Grima.
But Legolas doesn't miss.
When Grima stabs Sauron in the back, there's a lot of movement. And when that arrow was fired, I think he was aiming at Sauron, but the movement,
that's a very long distance.
That's a very long distance. You're shooting in an upward trajectory. I just think that
examine the physics here. Okay.
I think he was actually aiming for Sauron.
Okay.
Yeah, what's the travel time of that arrow? We got to think about that.
Yeah. Was it an African or European swallow? That carried the arrow.
I don't know. I don't think he misses because
I don't think he misses either. This is an interesting. There's two guys on the panel. They're like, yeah, like, oh, he missed. Okay.
He misses one
Mhm.
shot in like all three movies, and it's because it's the scene in this movie where Gimli smacks his bow as he's releasing the arrow, and he shoots
God,
the guy in the
I
chest. and
forgot
so-
about that. I love
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah.
But like, dude doesn't miss. Like he's trying to shoot Grima.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he does it because Saruman says, "Okay, I'll tell you," and then Grima stabs him, and they're like, "No, we really needed to know that information."
Yeah.
Yeah, you piece of shit.
Well, and I wanted more Agrima. I mean, he's a horrible person. He's a horrible person, but that character was played so brilliantly
Brad Dourif is
by Brad
incredible.
Dourif. I mean, just come on. I wanted more Grima. Give me more Grima, but it wasn't meant to be.
I told you to take his staff. Sorry, I'm just reading back the Two Towers line.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, that doesn't really fit with the books
No,
because with the books, Wormtongue is still around after.
so Saruman.
So is Saruman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Destiny.
Oh,
Yeah.
Because they killed him because was he sick or did he die
In
before?
the books.
No, Christopher Lee. When did he die?
No,
He-
wasn't he in Star Wars after this?
He was in
Yeah.
Star Wars after.
yeah.
Okay, never mind. So he didn't die. Okay, interesting. Okay, I don't know why he was in it for such a brief
It
time.
may have been scheduling conflict with
Well,
Star
I
Wars,
think they
actually.
knew they weren't going to use that part of the story after
Mhm.
Frodo goes to get healed with uh with the elves and all that. So they knew they weren't going to show that conflict in the Shire afterwards because they wanted it to end on a happy note with Sam and his wife and his kids.
Yeah,
So I think they just they're like, well, we don't really need these characters anymore, and it would be a fitting way to sort of tie up our version of the story. I maybe, I don't know.
yeah. No, that makes sense.
So the Star Wars he was in was the year before this, so it may have been scheduling conflict, and that may have been why
Oh.
they killed him off.
Yeah.
I believe
Okay.
Revenge of the Sith came out before this.
That's crazy.
Wow.
No, not Revenge of the Sith.
Um,
The
Clone
second one,
Wars?
Clone Wars.
Clone Wars. Okay, cool. I think that kind of wraps up the themes and everything. Well, actually, no. Let's touch on this for just a second before we go into favorite characters. But I've already kind of stepped on mine a bit. But the imagery. We talked a lot about good versus evil and everything. I noticed a lot. Watching this movie like a few times over the past week and everything. The imagery to me was very obvious to me. This 100th time in a row now. What did you guys? Any observations you guys want to talk about with imagery in this film and how it's used?
Um, that's a really deep question because
Mhm.
there's so much to it. There's so many aspects.
Well, I'll start with one scene specifically, right? So we're talking about a moment ago we were talking about the retreat of the men of Gondor, since they're not Gondalorians or whatever. The men of Gondor when they're retreating back to Minas Tirith, right? And Gandalf comes out to save them. There's a very definitive. If you look in the sky, there's a very definitive line of the creeping evil of Mordor. It's the black sky where it meets the blue sky of the rest of Middle Earth. And I thought that was really, an obvious kind of point and stuff. So
One of the things with imagery that I noticed in this movie right off the bat, and at first it struck me as messy set design and costume. Like just for the first moments was, man, I'm so bad at remembering the names of cities. The city in Gondor where Pippin and Gandalf go back to. What is it called? It starts with an M.
Minas Tirith.
Minas Tirith. Like it's in stark contrast to the entirety of Two Towers and most of Fellowship of the Ring. It's sparkling clean. Everything there is clean. Everybody's clothes are pressed and clean
Yeah.
and perfect looking. And at first it was like, that's a really weird choice. But then seeing them cut back and forth between, you see the difference between like, I mean, it's pretty much everybody else, but like the orcs in particular are just, they're all caked in mud and disgusting. Frodo and Sam are very close to that, where they're just covered in shit the whole time.
Yeah.
And then Aragorn and everybody else on that side of things are kind of in the same boat where, you know, they've been on the road, so to speak, for so long that they're all filthy and have unwashed looking hair. And then every time it cuts back to, see, I can't remember the name. Mythosir?
Minas Tirith.
Mister.
Minas Tirith. Every time they cut back, it's just perfect. Everything there looks
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
And it just struck me as really intentional that they're so far from the front lines that these people could have nothing to worry about. Like it could feel that way. Like, and it reminded me of like when the US is at war and at home things are normal. Like we still are washing our clothes and you know, buying food at the grocery store when the front lines are really in the shit.
Yeah.
But the stark contrast I think was really good imagery between those two.
Mhm. There's one scene in particular I love as well, because in Two Towers, when they leave Edoras, there's like a refugee column leaving the city, right?
Mhm.
And then in this movie, like you see the goddamn army leaving. It's like they showed it from the exact same spot. And this has the same view of the city, the same path the column is taking, but it's just gleaning heavy cavalry the whole way
Yeah.
instead of refugees fleeing the city. And I thought that was just a fantastic scene.
Oh, and the other thing with Minas Tirith, when they first get there, and it has like these, I mean, they're kind of like they're like helicopter shots, and they cut between them, so it's not quite spiraling around, but you're pretty much spiraling around from the bottom and way up to the top of these gigantic towers at the top of the city, and it's just such a cool sequence.
Yeah. And that mass.
And it really gives you the scale
Yes.
of this massive city
Yeah.
that's just stacked.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that big proscenium platform that torpedoes out the side of the mountain.
Yeah.
You know, and
Very much
yeah,
a Pride
I
Rock
agree.
Lion King, but yeah, I love it.
Pride Rock. Nice. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it kind of goes into the theme. It's just the scale of this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Each of the movies, it gets bigger and it gets bigger. In Fellowship, it's a small group of people.
You're following these people on a walk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
on a journey. There's a small skirmish at the end. I mean, it's small. I mean, it feels big, but then you get Helm's Deep, big battle.
Mm-hmm.
But you're in one place almost the whole time.
You're in one
Yeah.
place the whole time, but then you get Pelham Fields, which is just this massive spectacle, and it just shows the scale of war getting bigger and bigger and bigger, which kind of goes into like what he would experience in his lifetime of like World War I was the first war where these were conscripted armies. This was nation state on nation state.
Yeah.
These were national armies. This is the whole country going to war. And it's like that's what he would have seen in his lifetime and changing in society. And he kind of goes into the three movies. It grows.
What's an interesting concept too, if you think about the way that war is fought today, versus what you see on screen with this particular film, for example, to your point about like the scale, right? What we know of war, and even going back to like Vietnam, is very like small units going up against units in a jungle, right? Or in the mountains, if we're talking about fast forward to post 2000 and Afghanistan. Like it's a group of people against a group of people, really. And like, even if you want to talk about the IP of the, Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? You know, like it's these heroes, even in the scaled versions, like it's this small group of heroes fighting off, gigantic armies. So it's very much lopsided. It's the David Goliath approach. This is fucking Goliath versus Goliath, man. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, the Rohan army, like that cavalry is fucking deep, dude. I mean, it's massive. And to say nothing of the fact that something we haven't touched on, which is the arm, and I can't remember the name of it now. It's escaping me. I had it written down, and I don't have my notes up real quick. The army that Aragorn leads from the boats, the ghosts. Shit, help me out.
Oh, the undead.
The undead, right? I mean, that shit's fucking massive, right? And to say
Yeah.
nothing of the army of Mordor coming out of the gates, like, I mean, it's just the scale of warfare is something that we haven't even seen. And like, even if we take movies like Troy, for example, where there's basically two Goliaths, the Greeks versus the Trojans, or just those epic battle scenes like Braveheart and stuff too. Like this pales in comparison to what we're seeing at Return of the King specifically, to say nothing of the other two films. But Fellowship is a lot more relatable in that sense. It's like a group of people versus a group of people. Helm's Deep, you see a little bit more of it, right? You see a little bit more of that scale. This is just fucking an onslaught of massive proportions of people, which is just really interesting.
I'm not going to put Troy in the same category. Troy is one of the worst movies ever made, in my personal opinion. It's
I think we talked about
You
this
remember
last time.
how?
a steaming pile of cow dung.
Do you remember how after this movie came out, like it felt like every movie was trying to be a giant army fighting a giant army?
Yes.
We had
Mhm.
like, what was that awful movie, The Great Wall?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, never saw it. Thank God.
It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah.
But like there were a
That's
lot
called
of movies like
Matt
that where
Damon
it was like a
Matt Damon
giant
cashing a
army.
paycheck. Yeah, it's Matt Damon cashing a paycheck is what that
Yeah.
is.
Oh,
Um,
bad movie.
Well,
Funny
one
only
of one
time
of
he's
the
ever done it.
things, one of the contrast pieces, Bear, that really stood out to me, not just in this film, in the whole series, was the contrast between the way they use, and this is one of the reasons they won so many awards for this, the way they used sound for good versus evil. And I'm not talking about music. I'm talking about sound. When the the voices and the sounds made by the ring wraiths or the Witch King or Sauron, that they weren't just dark and ominous. They were actually like painful to listen to.
Mhm.
I mean, the
Mm.
sounds that they emanate, it was actually painful to hear those sounds. They were, and I saw a little bit in some documentaries years ago about this, that was intentional. They wanted to make it, that they wanted to make absolutely certain that there was no ambiguity about the evil of these characters.
Mhm.
And yet you could still have, you could have characters who were good that still are gruff and rough around the edges, but they sound like something from this world. They sound human, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They sound natural.
Familiar.
Yes, good, great term. But the juxtapose between sound, between evil and good, is such a key player in this series. And I really think it comes to the forefront in this final movie, where the sounds of the orcs and the Orokai and the Witch King and Sauron. I mean, at the end, when the Eye of Sauron finally, oh my gosh, it's just unbelievable. Those final screeches in those last seconds of Sauron's life as that eye extinguishes, it's just deafening. It's incredible.
It's
Yeah.
also cool the way like the armies use instruments as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
horn.
army of Mordor approaches the drums.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh shit. And then the horn when Gondor arrives and the Witch King turns his head and he's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
There's a massive blob of cavalry just appeared on my flank. You're in deep shit if that happens in the real world.
Yeah.
Just the horns. I love that scene.
The undead is a really interesting imagery that's used, and again, it's one of those blurred lines of good versus evil, right? But I think that's incredibly well done. It could have been really terribly done, but it's actually really well done. The spider, the giant spider, is an incredible scene too. I think that we haven't really even we haven't touched on it at all, and that's a really epic, battle too in its own right. Like we're talking about scale, right? So we're talking about army versus army, but we're talking about the hobbits, Sam and Frodo against this giant ass spider and stuff. And it's just Matt was talking about sound a second ago. I think the sound in that scene is incredible too. It's just the pace, you're along with them, or like, climbing rocks and crawling and trying to get away just as much as the characters are. It's really quite terrifying because it puts you in the cave.
It kind of goes into like that imagery of evil too. Like what are so many people afraid of today in the modern? It's a spider.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my mother will never watch this film. She's a fucking huge arachnophobe. Like, yeah, it's never going to happen. She would die.
But
like,
it's also the most common phobia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not a knock on my mom. I know, like, it's a very common thing. Spiders are just, just not. I've never understood it.
I'm not an arachnophobe, but I don't like spiders.
I mean, I don't fancy myself as a terribly courageous person. Like, I don't think like I'm definitely hesitating when even with Aragorn like leading the charge into the the gates of Mordor. I mean, I'm not sure if I'm following him, but I mean, spiders just definitely don't frighten. That giant ass spider does though. That fucking thing's scary shit. So
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I'm running for my life for sure. The other one too, I think what's really great and masterful about this, we've talked about the lines that were delivered and the way that they were delivered. If you take them out of context, how cheesy they could sound. The undead could have been terribly done. The spider could have been terribly done.
Mm-hmm.
The Oliphants are another one that could have been terribly shot and weren't. Like Matt was talking about sound a second ago. When I talk about imagery with the Oliphants, the swaying of the trunks and the tusks with the spikes connected to them, and they're just taking out, a column of cavalrymen from Rohan is just, it's very much beautiful battle imagery. That's just, again, special effects to the nines, but man, it really, really, really well done.
It was, and it's also cool because of Tolkien's like knowledge of military history. Cavalry's great weakness is elephants.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hannibal, man.
Throughout history, they perform horribly against elephants. They scare the horses. It's their big weakness. So Tolkien's like, you know what? You know how Mordor's going to counter these blob of
scary elephants?
Scary elephants.
Giant.
Giant ass Oliphants, man. Well, and I think the decision for costume, like they actually caught some flack for this because the characters who very much are the that are manning the Oliphants are very tribal and have a lot of there's definitely some African imagery in their costume and everything. But I think that's brilliant by Peter Jackson to recognize that. That's an homage to Hannibal, who was African, by the way, and if we're keeping score.
Absolutely. It's an homage to Carthage and Hannibal and those North Africans. It is.
Yeah.
I think it was perfect.
Yeah. I can't believe it. Like it's amazing to me sometimes the shit that people catch about stuff. And I thought that was like, I don't think that's a misguided commentary at all. I think that was on purpose, and it was brilliant for what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So cool. Anything else on imagery?
speaking of that, I mean, just this the special effects hold up. 20
Absolutely, 100%.
The amount of special effects that are in this movie with the crazy cinematic shots of Minas Tirith and this massive battle and Oliphants, like this movie could have came out last year and I would have been like, wow, those are some great special effects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is
I
it.
mean,
20 years later.
there's a couple frames. There's a couple frames when Legolas is like climbing the Oliphant. It's a little it's a little weak, but I agree with you 100% that even 20 years later, there are films that are being produced and released today that don't look as good as this film does.
I will point out,
including the
this
fucking
came out the
Hobbit.
year before. I completely agree with the Hobbit. I will point out this came out the year before Polar Express.
Okay. All right. Shots fired. That's cool. We're good. We're good. Moving on. We got favorite character, favorite scene, and favorite character, favorite nitpick, or favorite character nitpick, and favorite scene coming up to conclude the night. But we do have to go on to our next sponsored segment, which is our Everybody Eats segment, which is sponsored by Postania Cigars. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. If you always make sure that your servant's towel is bigger than your appetite, everybody will always get theirs. Postania Cigars is more than just great people, great cigars made by cool people. They embody an attitude of gratitude and grit. Yes, with Postania, everybody eats. So, gentlemen, normally I ask a different question, but I wanted to keep this thematic because this is the third and last installment of the Lord of the Rings, and I'm sure we'll have another opportunity to find another movie that we can all nerd out on again here in the future. But this is an epic conclusion.
I don't know if it'll be the Hobbit series, though.
No, we're not going to do the Hobbit. Sam and I have already decided that that's not happening. So, all respect, Peter Jack. We have a better shot of doing King Kong than the Hobbit, and I'm not one to jump on the King Kong train. So, but this is everybody. We're gonna keep with the Lord of the Rings theme here, guys. We're gonna circle in all three films. So just to make it easy, what is your favorite food scene in all three films? And you can include drink in there if you want, guys. So, food and drink. What's your favorite food and or drink scene from all three films?
So I feel like we can't pick the Denethor with Pippin.
No,
singing.
it's fucking disgusting.
like-
No, absolutely not, man.
I agreed. Agreed.
That's dude. I that meal is akin to, I don't know if anyone's been to medieval times, like the it's like akin to that
It's
type
been a
of
long
food,
time.
but
No.
and
I've
but
already
it's
I've already had salmonella once. I don't need to go to medieval times.
It just makes me not want to eat tomatoes. That whole scene, like
Yeah.
I can't eat tomatoes anymore.
Dude, my fucking 4-year-old has better table manners than Denethor. Okay, dude, and that kid threw his fucking strawberries in his spaghetti this week. Okay, so that just gives you an idea.
Did he still eat it?
Of course he did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Nice.
yes, and he still has better table manners. Like that kid can't eat a thing of pudding with it all going all everywhere. Like I found pudding in his
Well,
crotch.
yeah.
So
Where else are you supposed to put it?
your mouth, maybe, Matt. I'm just saying, Denethor couldn't get it either. He was getting it all over himself. It was just disgusting. Yeah. So favorite food and drink scene from the three films. We know it's not Denethor's dining scene. So what are we eating or drinking from the three films?
Ooh.
Well, mine, I mean, as much as I love the from the third film, the salted pork is particularly good. I got to go back to the first movie, to the Fellowship, when I believe it's Pippin says, "It comes in pints."
It comes in pints. Yes, that was my pick, Matt.
I
Yes.
absolutely love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think mine might be from the first movie as well. I mean, I love the drinking scene in this movie with Gimli and Legolas, but in the first movie, when they get to Lemnis bread, that like Legolas goes, "One bite will feed a man for an entire day," and then you just see Pippin go. He's like, "How many?" And Mary looks at him. He's like, "How many do you eat?" He's like, "4 or whatever it is." It's just like, oh, I love that.
Good. Yeah, they comes in pints.
That-
For me,
that- Cooking the
Yeah.
bacon on Weathertop.
Yeah, Trip, you're up, buddy.
For me, it's when they're singing about their flagons in this movie and about the green dragon, which when I lived in Portland, we had a bar called the Green Dragon that was they had 62, I believe, taps.
Oh shit.
It was a very cool bar. Like it started as a project for homebrewers. So there was like these, I think it was like 8 guys or something, and every week for 6 years straight, they brewed a beer a week and would release it on tap. It was super
Nice.
cool. And then Rogue bought it and changed it to a Rogue place, then shut it down. But mine is to the flagons, and I'm drinking out of my flagon, of course.
There you go.
Oh, here we go.
All right, Bear, what about you?
It comes in pints, man. It's just it's the fucking best line. It's just great. Yeah, I'm all about the pints. And it's like fast forward to the Return of the King in the end of like one of the 20 endings, right? So it's like they're all drinking in the pub back at home, and they're just looking with their meager glasses, and it's just like, man, dude, these guys should have fucking pints, man. They just saved the world. They're drinking simple ale out of their quarter pints or whatever the fuck they're drinking now. It's so crazy. It's just
they're all looking at each other and being like, "We should open a bar."
yeah,
Yeah.
shit, right? Yeah, that should have been Merry and Pippin's end. They open up a bar.
It should have been that
Yeah.
they opened
Yes.
up a pub in the Shire.
Yeah, with full pints.
And they serve
yeah.
only pints.
Only pints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They only serve full pints.
Yeah. So that was our
That's what
Postania
it's called.
segment.
Only pints.
Only pints. Yes, that's the name of Barry and Pippin's place. Well, there's a business idea for us four. We'll open up a pub. Let's call it Only Pints or Mary and Pippin's. We can debate on the name later. Our next segment is brought to you by Asylum Cigars. Refuge is more than just a physical place. It can be a state of mind. Some of life's greatest reflections can be found in our own personal asylum. Moments like these were made for an Asylum cigar. Light up an asylum and choose your refuge. Now, I've had a different take on this particular question as we've gone through this trilogy over the last 3 years, gentlemen. So I wanted to keep it on theme again with Lord of the Rings. There's a lot of moments with tobacco, specifically our long bottom leaf, that I think are really good. That they use it as a really nice plot device to, for one of like great thought and everything. But so I wanted to take that, and it doesn't have to necessarily involve tobacco, but what's a moment of reflection or a single moment, because there's plenty of scenes throughout the three. We're going to stick with the 3 films here, where characters are left to their own devices, left to their own personal reflections and thought that come about, and you're just like, oh, that's my favorite scene. So your favorite theme of personal reflection and thought throughout the 3 films. I'll give you guys mine. It's the first time, obviously Gollum comes back, but for a brief time when Smeagol suppresses Gollum out of his personality. That's it for me. In the Two Towers.
I really love the way they shoot those scenes with Gollum and Smeagol.
Yeah, like when he's looking into the river in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Like the river is Gollum and Smeagol, and above the river, then the river is Gollum, Smeagol again. I love those scenes. Every time they do it, just Andy Serkis crushes it.
Yeah.
It's
He's brilliant.
Gollum and Smeagol in this movie.
My mom's never seen the movie, but she knows the character Gollum because my sister and I reenacted it with that my precious, and she fucking can't stand it. So it's funny. Imagine watching it for 4 hours, Mom. How about that? That's my favorite moment of refuge. And there's a few. Hey, Tripp, what about you, man?
I'm trying to think of other moments of reflection for people, for anyone other than Gollum, because Gollum seems like the only character who's ever alone for most of these movies.
Just his internal dialogue.
Ooh,
His
ooh, I
internal
got a
dialogue.
good one. I got a good one. When Aragorn is approaching the crystal ball,
Yeah,
the
Oh,
ball of Sauron.
the
yeah.
Seeing Stone.
Yeah, Seeing
Seeing Stone, that's the word. I actually rewatched that one scene today. I don't remember why. But like that moment where he's about to pick it up and he's like, you can see it in his face. He's like, "Can I do this? Should I do this?
Mhm.
Is this the right thing to do?" Is like he's so tormented over whether he should even touch this thing. And point it at himself basically and taunt Sauron. I like that one.
Okay.
And then he taunts him with the sword. God, I love that thing.
One that comes to mind for me is pretty sure it's from the second film. They do all kind of bleed into one big long movie after
They
this
really
many.
do.
After 20 years, yeah.
I believe it's
kinda-
from the second film. Yeah. They're Gandalf and the others are maybe it was the first film. Gandalf and the others are so they're having trouble deciphering the code, the secret password to get in
Moria?
Moria.
Mhm.
And Gandalf just takes out his pipe and packs a bowl and lights his long bottom leaf in his pipe and it's just puffing and thinking and thinking and puffing and talking about uh you know making the most of the time that's given to us and things like that. And I just love that scene. And
Time
the
beautifully
lines
filled.
may be cheesy. Yeah, the lines may be cheesy, but I don't care that the lines are cheesy. I think it's meaningful and it I don't know. I just and the fact that he's so patient. Gandalf was so patient and he just sat with his thoughts and then it was almost just like a goof that at the end he goes, "Oh, I know. Duh, I know the answer."
Yeah.
I just love that scene. I absolutely love that scene.
He does it later in the
That's
film too,
great.
where they're trying to decide which way to go in the cave. He's like, "Oh, it's this way."
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's a great one. I
Yeah.
forgot about that scene. It's like, when in doubt, always trust your nose.
Yeah.
Sam, did you go?
Now, I'm really not sure on mine. I love the scene in the mines where he's like, "Oh, it's this way. It doesn't smell quite as foul."
Yeah.
I like the scene in this movie where they're kind of him and Pippin are sitting out in Minas Tirith at night and they're just watching the clouds come
Yeah.
in. And, he's sitting there just
It's so
stressed out as
quiet.
hell because
Yeah,
he's
it's
like
so quiet. Yeah.
coughing. And Pippin hands him the water, and then the like light beam. I don't even know what you call it. The light beam shoots up in the air from Minas Tirith
Yeah.
after it goes to the scene with Frodo and comes back. And it's just, I think it's a really cool scene. It's like, I think of the line from Theoden, it's like, so it begins. It's like, now they're coming.
So it begins.
So I think
All right. Well, we're about to get into favorite characters, so I thought that would be an interesting take on Dunbarton Tobaccos and Truff curveball segments. Fastballs or curveballs, it doesn't matter since the company's inception. Steve Sock has been knocking them out of the park 8 consecutive years, going up, trying for number 9 this year in the consensus top 3. Congratulations to our good friend, Mr. Steve Saka. So tonight's curveball question is Return of the King, back to specifically this film. What role are you playing?
not much of an actor, I'll tell you that.
What role are we playing, or what role ideally would we love to be?
What role are you playing?
I would be the mouth of Sauron. I could do that one. Making scary faces with my mouth. I can do that.
Yeah. Mouth of Sauron. Very good, Trip. All right, cool. Matt, what about you, man?
Well, I mean, ideally, I mean, I think every guy would want to say I want to be Aragorn, but I'm
Right.
no Aragorn. I mean, 30 years ago maybe, but I'm no Aragorn. Honestly, I think a role that would be absolutely a blast to play, and I think actually the character in his life has a pretty damn good time, is Gimli.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on. I just, yeah, I would want to play Gimli. I would want to be Gimli. What a blast. Get to carry around a big axe all day long and swing it around, and, you know, ripe meat off the bone, and all that. Come on. Come on. I would love it.
Oh man, I would love to say Gimli as well. I don't know. I feel like we don't talk about Legolas as much in this movie as we do in Two Towers. But I still like he's like the quieter one in the Fellowship. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure he has the least number of lines, but like he never wavers. He's always go, or he does waver once in Two Towers when he says, we'll be 300 against 10,000. But like after that, he's like, let's just fucking do it.
You're
We're
the only
gonna.
one that could pull that off, though, Sam. You've got the youth, and you're spry
I've
still.
I do own a bow, so I'm gonna go with that. But
Okay. Yeah, I think
Jay Davis said he'd want to play the Witch King.
there you go. That's
And
nice.
that was almost my answer, but I'm not as tall as Jay.
Yeah, Jay could rock the Witch King for sure. I think 20 years ago, I'm like I'm Éomer, I'm Carl Urban's character. But like, I mean, the older I get and the more gray that my beard gets, it's kind of hard to say that I'm not Gandalf at this point. Like 2 kids in, my patience has like gets better every year. So like I'm at this point, I think I'm just Gandalf. Like, I don't look very good in white though. I have to
You
say.
could be a pretty badass, but you could be also be a pretty badass Gimli bear.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I
Gandalf
could rock the Gimli. That's for sure. Yeah, I'm a little tall, but that's fine. I love a good axe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like part of me would just want to be Gimli because his whole role in this movie is to swing an axe around and crack jokes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm pretty sarcastic. It works out. Yeah, 20 years ago, maybe I'm also David Wyndham. I'm also Faramir. When I was a little better looking, the beard was a little shorter too. Yeah. But yeah, nice. Okay, cool. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, that was our curveball segment brought to you by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. All right, guys, last few segments here. So let's talk about favorite scenes. The favorite scene from the film, Return of the King. We've mentioned a lot of great ones tonight, so we might be rehashing some of the same ones, but that's fine. Sam, I'm going to give you the honors, man. This is your film. This is your baby. So what's the favorite scene of the whole film, dude?
It's got to be when Rohan arrives at Pelennor Fields. I absolutely love that scene when Theoden gets up and he's like, "Arise, arise, riders of Theoden!" It's like spears shall be shaken, swords shall be splintered. Dude, I love that scene so much
Fucking
because
great speech.
it makes you want to just fucking run through a wall. Yeah, I love that one. I mean, you gotta love Aragorn's speech at the end as well, but just they wrote 2 kick-ass speeches for generals to give right before they just go into. And dude, that one I love it. They're ready to run through a damn wall, and it's like Theoden's moment where it's like he's actually the leader. Like you could argue that Aragorn's the leader, but it's his redemption of this is his battle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's leading his troops into war, and there's no doubt it's him.
This steps on our original movie pod, Sam, when we did Gladiator with Justin. Like, what we do in life echoes in eternity speech. Like, fuck, dude, how do you not fucking follow Maximus into battle? Jesus Christ. Like that, like, yeah, Theoden's up there with that, with this one. Like, I'm running through a fucking wall for that guy. That's happening. Yeah, for sure. Tripp, I think Matt and I have the same take, but I'm gonna see what Tripp says.
Was this favorite character? I was watching
favorite scene.
Matt's power almost go out.
This is favorite scene. Yeah.
Favorite scene. Okay. Yeah, I was a little worried about you, Matt. I saw your like lights flickering and you looking around like what's happening.
Yeah, my actually lights did flicker but we're good. We're good.
All right. All right. Favorite scene. I gotta go back to the one I keep going back to. The Mouth of Sauron. That scene is just so awesome. And then he gets decapitated at the end. That is the best scene in the movie.
Yeah. Aragorn's
I
like,
love
fuck
that
you, I'm
part.
tired of your
And he's
tired
so
of your
like
mouth.
creepy and gross.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
And when he like whips out the Frodo's mithril shirt,
Yeah.
oh,
And everyone's like, oh
gut
shit.
punch that everybody's got to feel at that
Yes.
moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. How could someone little suffer so much pain? Like, oh, shut the fuck up. Oh, geez. Yeah.
That whole scene is just so good. The mouth is so creepy. I like that part.
Yeah.
Matt, I think you and I have the same take. Matt, go ahead. I'll let you.
Well, I have a feeling you're gonna think that my favorite scene is Pippin singing in
Yeah.
the Great Hall, but it's actually not.
Oh, okay. All right.
I mean, I love that scene. I absolutely love that scene, but my favorite scene, cheesy or not, is when the ring is finally destroyed.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it's I mean, when this is what it's all been leading up to.
Everything rides on that moment.
Everything rides on this final moment when the ring is finally destroyed. And even though from the time Frodo and Gollum go over the edge to the time Gollum falls to the lava and the ring is still in his hand, and there's so much in just that short little bit. There's so much symbolism. There's so much depth to it that it's just unbelievable. I mean, so I'll try to keep this short. So, because I made a bunch of notes about this. Gollum falls, gets the ring from, he bites off Frodo's finger. He gets the ring from Frodo. They struggle. They go over the edge. Frodo manages to get a finger on the edge of the cliff so he doesn't fall down. And Gollum's falling down with the ring in his hand. He's finally reunited with his precious.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
He is so elated. He is so consumed by this evil, utterly consumed down to the core of his being, that he doesn't even notice that he just fell into a river of lava and is literally being burned alive and consumed by lava. He doesn't even notice. Well, he still has a big smile on his face when he goes under the lava. And yet, even then, the ring, as when it touches, you would think this is a gold ring. It's touching lava. And yet it just rests on the surface of the lava there for a second. It doesn't go under right away. And you think, well, why is that? Well, Gollum just went under. So I got super nerdy on this. Lava is actually cooler at the surface than it is underneath, because the air temperature that's on the surface makes the surface layer of lava cooler than underneath. Now, it's not cool, mind you, but it's cooler. So the depth of the heat is actually underneath. And Gollum actually dropped that temperature even a little more because his body temperature lowered the temperature of the lava just a little bit, a few degrees maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And plus this ring is not just any ordinary gold ring. I mean, this ring was forged, by otherworldly, transcendent, magical powers. And then the fact that the writing starts to glow before the lava finally consumes it. I mean, there's just so much symbolism and packed into just those few seconds while that ring sits on the surface of the lava before it's finally destroyed. I absolutely love that they drew it out just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Before the ring finally melts away to nothing. I love it.
I mean, yeah, there's so much imagery with it. Like you could talk about even like again, the consumption of the evil that Gollum displays, but it's also like it's just, I mean, what it represents to me is, I mean, all things evil, but one of the things that it represents to me, again, because it is a precious metal too, is greed. And Gollum's greed is, he's so consumed by his greed, and like that it's brought him such utter joy to finally have that. And then in his final seconds, like he still has that joy on his face. It's just, yeah, it's a pretty fucking epic scene. And I don't think it's cheesy at all, man. I think it's actually incredibly well shot. And the story itself too, I think that while Tolkien probably would take exception to some of the liberties that Jackson took throughout the entire epic series of all three films, like that's the moment that mattered most, I think, is something that I think he did incredible justice to. So I'm with you on that. That's cool. Yeah, mine's the singing scene. I think it's, like I said, I think it's the best entire scene shot in the 21st century. That's my hot take on it. I said it earlier. I just everything aesthetically and is just brilliant. It's just absolutely brilliant. And we touched on it earlier, so I'm not going to rehash it too much, but that's my favorite scene and always will be. But everyone else that mentioned stuff is really good stuff too. So, I love Tripp's take. The mouth of Sauron's pretty good. Okay, so before we get into nitpicks and finally favorite, or before we get into nitpicks and finally favorite characters to end at, how do we feel about the endings? Okay, let's hash out this debate that's been going on for 20 years. When should the movie have ended? Is it right with the dozen endings? Is it not right? When should the movie have ended? That's what I want to know from you guys. When should the movie have ended? Is it perfectly well made? Should we have had all the tying up of the purse strings or whatever, or purse strings, the tying up of the loose ends, or what? So, Matt, I'm going to come to you first.
Oh gosh, it's really tricky. I don't fault them at all for the way the movie ends and for the way that I mean, there's, again, we talked about it a little bit. There's so much more that they didn't continue on with, because it would have been another 3 hours if they would have continued on with what was actually written down on paper. I wouldn't have minded personally. I think it would have been, just for my own personal taste in story arcs and storytelling, I wouldn't have minded one bit if the very last scene before they cut to credits was when Sam, Frodo, Merry, and Pippin are sitting at the pub at a table having an ale together. And just with those, there were no words spoken. There were a few smiles, a few laughs, and then just that sort of look between all four of them amongst each other, that look on their eyes of reflection of, did that really just happen? I mean, there's so many unspoken things that you could see floating in the air around them. Did that really just happen? Did we really just do that? Are we really back? Did we really survive? Is this really happening? We're really here, having an ale together, having actually survived what just went on. And I would have been so content if that just would have slowly faded to credits, right at that point, I would have considered it a perfect spot to roll credits.
Yeah.
Really, doesn't that only cut off like the one? I guess that cuts off the wedding, and then that cuts off them leaving Middle Earth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to disagree with that because I don't want to lose the scene where they bow to Aragorn and Aragorn says, "My friends."
Yes.
So,
Bow to
yeah,
no one.
You
Yeah.
have to keep that. You have to
Yeah.
keep that.
yeah, definitely.
So you have to keep the crown for sure, because just the emotion of that, it's like, oh, that's incredible. I really like that as a potential ending. I sitting at the Green Dragon. I like that a lot. Now I think I don't fault them like you for having all of these endings because it does justice to the book to wrap up everyone's story. But man, it's hard to disagree with what you just said with having them all sit around like, holy shit, was that the last couple years of our lives? We were sitting here at the Green Dragon 3 years ago and not a care in the world. And we just had this harrowing adventure, life and death struggle. And look at that, we're back here.
Yeah.
And now they get to relax,
Right.
Yeah.
go back to being just hobbits.
Maybe
Yeah.
a little PTSD, but yeah.
Probably.
Well, clearly Frodo did. Yeah.
Oh, clearly. Yeah.
That is the argument for picking that last where
Yes,
he
definitely.
leaves, because I mean, I guess in Tolkien's day they would call it shell shock, but
Yeah.
of going through what he went through. Like he can't live a normal life after that. He's got to leave and go with the elves. So it's tough. It's a lot of endings. I mean, it's like 45 minutes of screen time or something. But I like the Green Dragon ending, but I really don't fault the story that they tell that Frodo has to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That the weight the burden he was bearing was just too much.
I read a piece a while ago. I think it was like a year ago when I was like we were doing Two Towers and I was reading a piece about the Return of the King. I was like, it was about the ending. So I was like, oh, fast forward, I'll do some pre-research for a year from now. But the guy's take was an interesting one. I disagree with it, and he said that it should have ended on the mountainside after the ring was dropped, just right as the eagle Gandalf rides in and rescues them. I'm like, man, that's a fucking shitty ending. That's a really
that could be an ending, but yeah,
could be.
that would be disappointing.
It really
Like
would
you're not
be.
wrapping anything up.
You're like,
Everybody
okay.
likes that a little bit of wrap up at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, I mean,
You miss emotional impact if you end the movie there.
Yeah.
right. Well, Matt's point about like it all culminates on his favorite scene, which is the ring finally going to its doom. But like, yeah, okay, that's the whole point of the film. But at the same time, like, there's so much after that. They even talk about the journey home, and several
Yeah, we
times in
spent
this one.
30 hours watching these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just to
Like
end abruptly,
the ring
it's like,
going in, the ring going in is the climax. It's like you
Yeah.
have to have some wrap up after that.
Yeah.
yeah,
Where you're kind of left hanging, frankly, if that's where it ends.
right.
Oh,
Exactly.
if the ring would have melted and then it would have faded to credits, I would have been pissed. Most
Yeah.
people would have been pissed.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So
It
here's
just
my
fades to
question.
black, and then it says, "Read the books to find out more."
Yeah, well,
Right.
here's the
The
question,
end.
right? Because there was more to the books, right? Legolas and Gimli go off. Saruman comes to the Shire. There's so much more, right? The wedding, the rule of Aragorn over Gondor and uniting the race of man and all that shit. Could we have had a fourth movie?
We still could.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't be as exciting as these three.
I
Yeah.
agree.
I don't think it's needed. And I had this whole conversation with some friends yesterday. We were talking about the Harry Potter movies, and we're like, and we got onto the topic of Lord of the Rings. Like these movies, it's appropriate where it ended, and I don't think they should ever be remade.
I absolutely agree with that.
God, I
Unless we get to a point where the visual effects in these movies doesn't hold up anymore, which I don't see happening. I don't think there's any reason to remake ever.
there should be no reason to ever remake these films. Like the visual effects be damned.
Yeah.
Well, and it's, I mean, they're already doing it, but it's like Star Wars. Like, I don't want this story retold. I want to know more about this world.
And that's kind of what they're doing with the Amazon series. It's
Well,
yeah.
exactly, and
about the
they've already
world,
announced a
but
new
it's-
movie, right, with Amazon.
Think so.
Oh,
Like,
didn't know
I
that.
think that happened this week. That there's a new movie that takes place. I think it's in between the Amazon series and Lord of the Rings.
Mm. And I still haven't, I can't bring myself to watch the Amazon series. I'm very leery of companion works that come many years later.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For any series that is beloved by me, for instance, I have never seen the fourth or fifth Indiana Jones movies, and
Neither have I.
I will never ever watch them. I will
Yeah,
never watch them
we've
because
talked
it
about
was
this,
so
Matt.
perfectly ended at the end of the Last Crusade.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't bring myself to do it. Now, could
Dial
somebody
of
make
Destiny is actually good. Crystal Skull's awful.
another film to sort of, yeah, I can't do it. I won't.
I've heard
I
that.
was
I just
surprised by
yeah,
the dialogue
I'm with that.
that it was.
Somebody could make a movie to talk about the scourge of the Shire after, you know, where the Return of the King ends, that we as we see it on film, and all that. But I just don't think it's worth it. I don't I don't think it, because there's not that much. I mean, they can, Hollywood can draw anything out and make a full-length feature film out of it, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it would benefit the the cinematic universe at all to make that film.
I do agree with that. Like Star Wars is a completely different animal because it's this universe that's rife with with uh with conflict. And the whole point of the end of this movie is that the conflict is over.
Right. Exactly.
Now, I do think that one of the themes that's present in the books is like how the, I guess, good societies in real life, it was is France and Britain had to industrialize to win, which is absent from the movies. And I think there was something there they could have worked in, but it's hard to go in and change these movies because they're fantastic.
Yeah,
But
you can add stuff in between, but I don't think it would really make sense.
like,
Yeah.
that's a sub theme of like his view of the Shire is what Tolkien's home looked like before World War I. And when he came home, it was completely different. It was gone. It was industrialized because that's what the society had to do to win the war.
Mhm.
And that plot is missing, which I think is, it's sad that it's gone, but it's also like it's hard to change these movies because they're fantastic.
Right.
Like, do we need another subplot in the film? It's like, probably not. There's a
Probably
lot going on in these movies already.
Maybe
Yeah.
Peter Jackson will come back in 10 years and do the extended editions where he shoots a bunch of new scenes and adds them in.
67 hours of additional footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would watch it.
Peter
I'd watch
Jackson
it.
Exactly. I would watch it too.
Oh yeah, me too. Peter Jackson makes Francis Ford Coppola look like a fucking documentary filmmaker. Like he just like there's so much goddamn footage, it's ridiculous. All right.
It's crazy.
All right. So biggest nitpick for Return of the King. Notable nitpicks.
I got one.
Hit me.
So the fact that this just pulled me, it pulled me out of the movie right away when I saw it in theaters back 20 years ago. The fact that the character's name, like in the universe, is actually called Gothmog. It's basically the like the orc general,
Yeah.
in
The white
malformed
head,
one.
the white-headed
Yeah.
dude, right? Yeah.
yeah looks just like Chunk from the Goonies.
Yes. Yes.
Looks exactly like Chunk from the Goonies. And when I first saw him come on screen, I'm thinking to myself, this character's supposed to be scary and ominous, and all I can think in my head was,
Hey,
"Hey,
guys.
from the that's all I could,
Yeah.
and I could never get behind that character as far as feeling like this character is scary and formidable and ominous. Nope, I just thought he was a goof who liked Baby Ruth bars. That's it.
Yeah, when the scene with the rock flying from the catapult from Ministerius, where he like it just misses him. That's exactly what I picture him saying.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, don't look to the side as it falls to his side.
Exactly.
Like it's just fucking just bad, man. Yeah, no, I'm with you, man.
That was
Good for
really
looking
my
good.
only nitpick. That was my only one.
Yeah. Tripp, Sam.
I
I don't know if I have a nitpick.
Mine is, I mean, it's smaller, but
I mean, it's maybe that scene that I talked about earlier, that one like back and forth of dialogue with the I never thought I'd die next to an elf thing.
Yeah.
Like that's my major nitpick. I just hate that back and forth. Like please just
Take it out.
re-release the movie without that
Take it out. Yeah.
that 3-second piece.
yeah, I agree with that one. Mine is kind of like a plot one. It's interesting because, after Sam and Frodo escape, they get away with being orcs for a little while, and now they're walking towards Mount Doom, and Sauron sees them, and he's like, if he watches them, they fall down, they hide, and then his gaze gets drawn. But it's also like, what the fuck do you think two hobbits are doing in Mordor? Is that not highly suspect?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
God, I had never thought about that. Holy shit,
like
that's a plot hole.
a Nazgul to check that out.
Yeah. Something.
Is he like just so honed in because Aragorn taunted the hell out of him? But that was one thing that's like, that doesn't raise a red flag a little more than they did.
Yeah.
If you're the big bad.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I'll check that out later.
Yeah. It's all good. It's fine. I know the ring's coming back, but it's probably not those guys. It's probably another two guys that just look like them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You wouldn't give the hobbit. That doesn't make any sense. What about you, Bear? What's your nitpick?
I know it's in the book. And I'm stepping on the last segment, which is favorite characters, even though I've already mentioned who my favorite character is. Are we sure? Are we sure that Eowyn and Faramir need to get together? Like, does that have to happen? Like, is it really necessary? Does she need a dude? Does he need a bride?
Why not though? Why not?
I
mean,
again, yeah. Like, I mean, it's fine. Like, it's not like
I mean,
it's not.
I
It's
kind
not
of
a
get
plot
that.
hole
Like,
nitpick,
Eowyn
but
is
it's just
too
like,
strong for any man. Right?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good nitpick. It's like, it doesn't need to happen.
No.
Does it move the story forward at all? No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
it
Like, it
doesn't.
doesn't move the now. Here's the way it kind of plays out in my make believe head is that like they go back to Rohan together, and she fucking rules it as the queen, and he's like, she's Queen Elizabeth, and he's he's the prince. That's fine. It's kind of the kind of the way I see it.
I think they're a good match. I think they're a good match, actually. I think I mean, that's a power couple if ever I've seen one, and she wears the pants.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
So
I mean, yeah,
I think it's great.
she's never the damsel.
Oh.
Like I said, and I stand by that. She's never the damsel, and it's fine. And he's not rescuing her, which makes it okay. I just don't know if it's
It's like
necessary.
it's unnecessary. It's unnecessary, but they're a good match.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Faramir is I mean, he's a warrior, but he's also, he's introspective. He's kind-hearted.
He doesn't want to be.
He's a gentle guy.
Yeah,
He
he's
doesn't want to
softer.
fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
He has to.
Well, to Sam's point about Sauron too. So here's my thing. So there's this show, this particular series that we've done. We do twice a year on ELOsoFumarTakes. It's about films, and it's based off of my love for the podcast, The Rewatchables, which is is a Spotify ringer podcast headed by Bill Simmons, and one of their favorite new segments that they've entered in is like, are we sure this guy was good at his job? And yeah, that's my take on Sauron. Are we sure he was a good bad guy? Like, yeah, how do you miss the two hobbits? How do you allow this pithy human, not that Aragorn's pithy,
I mean, you don't
but
just
like,
miss them; you see them, and then you're like,
oh,
whatever.
fuck it, yeah, like this dude taunting me over here is like more important. Like, plus he also,
How do you tell Pippin?
what's that?
How do you tell Pippin your whole plan?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Are we sure you're good at your job as a bad guy? Like, also, how do you, if you're all, you're like hell bent on destroying the world, how about summoning an army that of like, yes, evil fucking people and things, but man, like, aren't orcs and Orokai and goblins, aren't they just the dumbest fucking things alive?
Yep.
I mean, they are a bag of rocks if I've ever seen one, man. Like, Jesus, dude, like, have some people with some brains. Like the mouth of Sauron's probably like the only representation of anything that has any kind of like, semblance of an IQ above 40. Like, it's just so those are a couple of my nitpicks in the film, but no, I think this one probably has lacks and potholes, lacks and plot holes and plot gaps, probably more so than the other two, for sure. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I already stepped on it. So, favorite character from Return of the King, mine's Eowyn. She's fantastic. She's beautiful. She's marvelous. And I don't mean, yes, she's physically attractive, yes, but she is a beautiful character and a beautiful hero. One that we should all should admire. She's fantastic. She is my favorite character in this entire film. Most underrated character, and I think the entire series overall, but definitely my favorite of this film. So. Next up, Tripp, who's your favorite character from Return of the King? The mouth of Sauron, right? Can I call him my shot?
He's on the list. I think honestly Eowyn is probably my favorite, but I'll give special shout outs to Aragorn because he's always like Aragorn in these movies is just the epitome of cool when it comes to Lord of the Rings. Pippin, I think, is awesome in this one. And then, like you said, Mouth of Sauron and Witch King both get shout outs. But Eowyn takes it for me. She's just so cool in this movie.
Courage for our friends, Mary. Ugh, fuck yeah.
I think mine, and I never would have picked him in a million years in the first two movies, but it's Sam.
Yeah,
I love him in this.
He was this close to being on my honorable mentions.
His redemption arc, just how they tell the themes of loyalty and friendship in this movie. He's got some great moments. It's Sam, I think, honorable mention. I love Theoden's story arc in this movie as well.
yeah.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Noble as Denethor is fantastic in this film. It just makes your skin crawl, and he has 10 minutes of screen.
Yeah, 10-20 minutes of screen time. Yeah. He's
guy.
He's almost more grotesque. He's almost more grotesque than Grima Wormtongue. Like, it's a debate. Like, who's the most grotesque character in the entire series? And it's Grima Wormtongue and fucking Denethor. And I'm not sure Denethor loses. I think he wins that.
I think you could argue he's because
he's the ick, man.
like he's not being manipulated.
Yeah. Yeah, like Grima Wormtongue has like evil infiltrating his body.
He's making these choices of his own free will.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, I won't bow to the ranger from the north. You're like, God, dude, he's the returning king, and you're
Yeah.
just like, no, I'm gonna be the steward forever. What a piece of shit, man.
The armies of Mordor are there, and he's like, abandon your posts. Like, really? That's your order in this moment?
Yeah, run, run away, run away. Oh God, yeah, yeah. Sam for me
It's
is
played so well. So
yeah,
he's
and I love this in the true 1950s fashion, right? You know, like where we're talking about Elwyn not being the damsel, right? But like Sam gets the girl, dude. He gets the girl in the end. You know, he gets the happy ending. You know, good for you, Samwise. Way to power
Yeah.
through, man. Yeah, I think
you
Sam's
were a
good.
garden listening to
Mhm. Matt, what about you? Favorite character?
Yeah, I have to agree 100% with Sam. Samwise is the hero of the story. He's the best character in this movie. He gets it done. I mean, when he sees Frodo on that precipice, um, like giving in to the power of the ring, and because finally, after all this time, after all this journey, Frodo, it's just that last grain of strength left in Frodo fades away, and the power of the ring takes him. And Sam, I mean, Sam's not the one who ultimately takes the action that destroys the ring, but he is the one who saves Frodo from dying after the ring is destroyed and pulls him up from certain death. And um he's yeah, the fact that it harkens back to the first movie, this beautiful young hobbit that Sam is just so enamored with in the first film, that when he comes back to the Shire finally after this harrowing expedition, that he gets the girl and they live happily ever after, and they have a family, and I just love it. Um and also I will echo that Denethor is absolutely one of the best characters in
You
film.
love to hate him.
You love to hate him, and
Yeah.
he's it the one of the reasons I think Denethor is so menacing and so frightening is because Wormtongue is actually the reason Wormtongue is evil is because he's motivated by something. Wormtongue is motivated by greed and power. Denethor is just checked out. Denethor doesn't give a fuck. Denethor, he's 100% apathy. He does not care about anyone or anything, and that is one of the scariest characters you can ever have. Is someone who literally just does not care. He doesn't care about power. He doesn't care about wealth. He doesn't care about status. He just doesn't care. And that is one of the scariest characters you could ever encounter in any universe.
Yeah.
And he's portrayed that way so beautifully and so frighteningly.
Absolutely.
All right, gentlemen. Time has come. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts we want to share?
This is a pretty good movie.
Pretty good. Pretty decent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Good way to wrap it up. Good way. Guys, this was a 3-year journey for us too. We did this over the course of 3 years. We did 3 pods, totaling almost the same number of hours as the movie, if not more. We were at currently we're sitting at 3 hours and 15 minutes, so just 6 minutes shy, which I'm sure when we wrap up here in just a couple of minutes, we'll be at the total running time of the theatrical version of Return of the King. So you know, I what I really love about this show in particular is the dialogue and the conversations that I have every week with interviews with people from around the industry. But what I really like about this one particularly, where we get to dive into film, and Sam's been kind enough to join me on this journey a little bit, and we celebrate some notable films and their anniversaries over the years. And this has always been a really, really cool way to really bring movies back to life and stuff. Here we are 20 years later from Lord of the Rings, and we have the same amount of running time, and they ran in theaters to have conversation about what we saw, what we witnessed. And I think, and we still miss things. We still, like, there were still some things we could have touched on. I think like
there are entire storylines we didn't touch on.
Yeah, absolutely. Or barely glazed over, like, because I think that the undead, the scene with the undead is one that we really didn't talk about too much at all, and I think it's one of the most brilliant shot things that I've seen in cinema. So there's just quite a bit. So, gentlemen, I really wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining Sam and I on these incredible journeys into film. And Tripp, Matt, you guys are welcome back anytime, and to talk about movies and or anything for that matter. And look, we can smoke some cigars and drink some good spirits and enjoy ourselves once more, and talk about some of the greatest films in our history. So I'm really excited as we continue the series kind of going forward and stuff. So it's good stuff.
Bear, thank you. My pleasure.
My pleasure indeed. So for everyone out there, we really appreciate everyone staying up late with us as always. Thank you so much. From the bottom of my heart to you guys as well. Keep those likes, comments, shares coming, please. If you check out our YouTube channel, you can always check out ELOsoFumar. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you already are a subscriber, that's fine too. If you're listening to us later, wherever you listen to podcasts, whether that be on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Play, Podbean, or wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure you download, subscribe, and review. If you already are a subscriber, do me a favor, hit unsubscribe. But but don't forget to hit resubscribe, because that helps my numbers so that I can keep doing stuff like this. It's a lot of fun. So without further ado, it's my pleasure again to thank once again Sam Spencer, Matt Ty, Tripp Waldrop. This was the 20th anniversary of Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. And we thank you all for joining us tonight. So live from the Alec Bradley Lone Star Studio of Azle, Texas, this was our 275th take. Once again, he's Sam Spencer, he's Matt Ty, and he's Tripp Waldrop. Guess what, everybody? We'll see you next time.